subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Open the door. Moo also took advantage of the opportunity to get into the car, and then took out a little nun from her arms that she carried before going out. He picked out a 100 denomination coin and stuffed it into the coin box on the bus. Yes, Moo has a real nun on him. It's not just the kind of card ring in Greed Island. The reason why there are these nuns is entirely because of Catherine. After entering Greed Island, Catherine's own ring nun, of course, cannot be used. However, she also thought that one day she would leave Greed Island, so she kept these nuns well. Now, it's ready for Moo to use. Although not many, there are only tens of thousands of nuns. However, it is enough to be used as a startup fund for Moo. Otherwise, after Moo left Greed Island, he would have gone to the Sky Arena to make money instead of looking for grandparents. After getting on the bus, the driver glanced at Moo and then at the empty bus stop. He also closed the door directly and continued to drive the car, following the route the bus was going to take. And Moo walked to the second half of the bus, found a seat, and sat down. The speed of the bus is not fast, and it has been traveling at a relatively fixed speed. And during the period when I didn't pass a bus stop, someone would always come up. Then after a few stops, I will get off again. This point has nothing to do with Moo. He has been staring at the bus route map on the top of the bus. Listening to each stop called by the bus broadcast, he has to estimate how many stops he still has to get off. 10, 3, and all the way to the last one. Eiley Road is here. Please get off through the back door. Hearing this, Moo also stood up directly, walked off the bus. After getting out of the car, Moo had to walk straight away. There are too many people here. There was simply nowhere for him to stop and think. Avoiding passersby, Moo walked out of the bus stop and stopped under a tree on the side of the street. There are fewer people here, just enough for him to have a foothold. Chapter 27 Bad Thoughts for Flowers. Well, here is no 34, and this side is number 36. That is to say, I need to go to the other side. Moo stood in front of a shop and looked at the house number on the side of the gate and muttered. What I'm looking for is number 66. That is to say, there is still a distance. While talking, Moo also acted, and his actions, of course, also attracted the attention of the waiter in the shop just now. I thought I was only coming to buy something, but I didn't want to stand outside the door to have a look and left. This made these waiters secretly scold the poor ghost. That is to say, Moo doesn't know what the waiters are thinking. Otherwise, he would have to say something. Now he's really a poor ghost. There are tens of thousands of nuns all over the body, which is less than 1,000 yuan when converted into soft sister coins. Although it sounds like a lot, but that's all he has. The distance between number 36 and no 66 is very close, and it didn't take much time for Moo to walk to the target he was looking for. This is also a small building with 4.5 floors. The first floor is the same as other houses, which are rented out to other merchants. He had inquired about the rent here before, and it cost 200,000 ring nuns a month. This is enough for the living needs of the two old people. This also allows Moo not to worry about the quality of life of grandparents. After thinking about it, Moo didn't go directly into the cake shop number 66. Excuse me, is there anything you need? You can come in and have a look before making a decision. Moo didn't enter the cake shop. The waiter came out by himself and greeted her warmly. There are too many people doing business like this, and they can still be so deserted. Moo has every reason to wonder how bad the cakes in this shop are. Miss, don't worry about me. I'm waiting for someone, thank you. Moo explained with a smile, seeing Moo's smile. The maid couldn't help feeling emotional. Without any dissatisfaction, I just stood in front of the store and looked at Moo. His eyes gradually became infatuated. Seeing this, Moo was also speechless for a while. However, he couldn't say much. He could only keep smiling. Now, he has the phone numbers of his grandparents, but he does not have a mobile phone. And if you want to buy one, it will cost too much money. It is not conducive to Moo's next actions. It's almost December now. He still has a month at most. After that, You need to sign up and take the hunter test. But now he doesn't know how much the ticket to the Sky Arena will cost. If you can't fly to the Sky Arena after you buy the phone because you don't have enough money to buy a plane ticket, it'll be a waste of time. Instead, he might as well wait until he completes the challenge of the Sky Arena and gets the 400 million rings before buying it. At that time, he had a lot of spare money. Therefore, now he only needs to borrow a mobile phone and call his grandparents. This is not difficult. If he wants to borrow it, the maid in front of him is a good choice. However, Mu doesn't feel very good about the maid, so he doesn't really want to have too much relationship with the maid. Situation: Mu looked to the side of the shop, then walked to a small shop. "Welcome, what do you need?" The cashier of the small shop asked Mu with a smile, "Borrow the phone." Mu said after finishing speaking. He took out a coin and placed it on the cashier's counter. The cashier, who wanted to refuse Mu's request, also gave up the idea when he saw the 100 denomination nuns on the counter. "Okay, please use it." The cashier smiled and took out a landline and said, "How much is a phone call?" And it's only 1 Buddhist nun per minute. With such a price, even if Mu made a 10-minute phone call, she would earn money. Although there are not many, mosquitoes are still meat no matter how small they are. After answering the phone, Mu also took out the note in his arms and dialed the number on it. Soon, the phone was connected. "Hello, who is it?" "Hello, is this Mr. Keneve?" Mu asked directly. "You made a mistake. I don't have this person here." Hearing this, Mu was taken aback, frowned, and said, "Sorry for the trouble." "Fine." The other party hung up the phone, but at this time, Mu was very puzzled. "There's no such person? Could it be that my mother misremembered the phone number? No, this should be impossible. It is almost impossible to remember the parent's phone number wrongly. Especially Catherine is still so careful to memorize. But now the phone is connected, but they say that there is no such person. What can cause this situation is that the person changed the phone number. Second, something may have happened to this person. With a bad thought in his heart, Mu continued to dial Grandma's phone number. Sure enough, the person who spoke on the other side would not know Mu's grandma. It is possible for a person to change his phone number. However, it is almost impossible for two people to change phone numbers together. Therefore, Mu can conclude that something really happened to her grandparents. This is troublesome. Mu pressed his forehead with a headache and muttered. After hanging up the phone, Mu pushed the landline back, thanked him politely, and left the small shop. Back to the front of the 66th. Mu found the maid who just made a fool of herself. "Hi, may I ask, do you have the contact number of the subsequent landlord here? I have some personal matters to ask him." Mu said straight to the point, "You're looking for a landlord. Do you want to rent a house?" The maid asked curiously. Mu looked at the wrong maid in front of her with a headache. "What exactly are you looking for from the landlord? I think you have been in front of the store for a long time, just now." Just as Mu was thinking about sacrificing his hue, the store manager beside him interjected and asked. Hearing this, Mu breathed a sigh of relief. "It's like this. This house belongs to my grandfather. I lost contact with him for several years. This time I came to visit relatives, but I found that the phone couldn't be reached. So, I want to ask what's going on." Mu thought for a while and explained like this with Chapter 28, "I'm Gon's cousin. Ask for flowers. The landlord is your grandfather?" The store manager was stunned by Mu's words before he realized it. "Oh, sorry. I was taken aback by your words because I met the landlord, who was only a middle-aged man. By the way, I happen to have the landlord's phone number. Let me make one for you." The store manager is very nice. He seemed to feel that his reaction just now was a bit impolite, so much so that he even thought of calling for help. For this, Mu is also grateful. Soon, the call got through. After a few words with the landlord, the store manager handed the mobile phone to Mu. Taking the phone, Mu nodded to the store manager before answering. "Hello. Ha. I just heard that Uncle Kent actually has a grandson." I was taken aback for a moment, thinking it was some kind of liar. However, thinking about the current Uncle Kent, there's nothing to lie to. Then I will know, you boy, maybe it is really possible to be Uncle Kent's grandson. That girl still has a little conscience, but she still wants to transfer her child to come over. Mu didn't interrupt, just quietly listening to the person on the phone. And from the man's words, Imomu can be sure that the man is an acquaintance of the mother. My grandfather's house is now someone else's, and this person is an acquaintance. Imomu couldn't help thinking of the conspiracy to defraud the family property. However, he dismissed this thought in the next few minutes, because the person on the other end of the phone clearly explained the situation of his grandparents to him. It turned out that the person on the phone was from the generation of Catherine's uncle, although he was only a few years older than Catherine. However, where is the identity? And Imomu's grandparents have passed away at this time. After Catherine entered Greed Island, she couldn't be reached by phone because it was too long. Grandparents thought Catherine was missing. Alarm is selected. However, the police did not get very good help, and Catherine could not be found for more than half a month. At that time, Imomu's grandparents were in a hurry. Start a large area of advertising to find Catherine. Promise that as long as there is relevant news, he will pay a lot of money as a reward. For a while, it cost a lot, and finally had to sell the house. A few years ago, they got news that Catherine was overseas. Eager to find a girl, they packed their bags and boarded a rented boat without thinking too much about it, and headed overseas. It's just that the sky is unpredictable. Going to sea is more or less risky. And Imomu's grandparents also spent their luck this time and died in a shipwreck. Fortunately, the body was finally found and was collected by one of Catherine's aunts and buried in a place called Whale Island. Whale Island. When hearing this, Imomu was very surprised. It never occurred to him that his grandparents would be related to the people of Whale Island. Of course, if it's just like this, Imomu will just feel a bit of a coincidence. But when he learned the names of his mother's aunt and cousin, only then did Imomu realize that the world is so small. Leaving aside the name of the cousin, she never appeared in the plot. However, the name of Catherine's cousin will be familiar to anyone who has watched the anime Hunter x Hunter. Mito Freaks. Yes, the last name is Freaks, and I still live on the Whale Island side. It is Gon's Mito aunt, one of the 4 protagonists of Hunter x Hunter. Mito is Catherine's cousin. That is to say, Kim Freaks is actually Catherine's cousin. In other words, Imomu has to call Mito as cousin and Jean as uncle. That is, Gon is his cousin. This is incredible, unbelievable. Imomu hung up the phone and muttered in disbelief. At the same time, I was also worried about the situation of my mother. If she knew that her disappearance indirectly killed her parents, Catherine must have collapsed. No, don't let Catherine know about this for now. At least not to tell Catherine until the final situation is determined. Heartbreak is also mortal. After returning the mobile phone to the store manager, Imomu also left the number 66 building. Standing outside, Imomu couldn't help thinking. So where to go next? Are you going to the Sky Arena, or are you going to see your grandparents' graves? If he went to the Sky Arena, he would have to stay there for at least a month. Only in this way can you get the bonus of All Sky Arena. More than 400 million startup capital. Imomu does not want to give up so casually, even if he can make a lot of money through other things later. But those things are not as easy as the Sky Arena, and they can also exercise themselves. The time is too short. After going to the Sky Arena, there is no way to go to Whale Island. After more than a month, he will go to the Hunter test after thinking about it. Imomu finally chose to go to Whale Island first. Thinking like this, Imomu took the car and came to the train station. Then, he bought a ticket to the nearest port. I plan to go to the nearest port first, and then transfer to Whale Island. It is not possible to take an airship. There is no airport on Whale Island, and there is no airship to fly there. TSK, I don't know if my tens of thousands of nuns can make it to Whale Island. Imomu pressed his forehead with a headache and muttered, "This is not Greedy Island. There are no wild monsters to fight for him and then sell them for money. Money, of course, is getting less and less the more you use it. Of course, there's no need to think too much about money. When it's time to come back naturally. Now he only needs to visit the graves of his grandparents." When he came to the port, Imomu also bought a boat ticket to Whale Island according to his own ideas. However, Whale Island is only a small place, and there are not many ships going there at all. However, he was lucky. There happened to be a fishing boat going there, and Imomu warmly invited him to board the boat when he heard that he was going to look for relatives. Chapter 29, Whale Island, for flowers. Oh, I didn't expect Mito to have such a big nephew. Who says it's not? For so many years, I thought they were the only 3 orphans and widows in their family. What about orphans and widows? Gone is not Mito's child, but that be D. Kim's. TSK, this guy Gene is really not a thing. After giving birth, I didn't care about it, and threw it to my cousin to take care of it, which delayed Mito's youth for so many years. On the fishing boat going to Whale Island, the fishermen discussed the situation of Mo. As we talked, we started talking about Luo gene freaks. But think about it, when the parents are not at home and the uncle and aunt are not there. He didn't take care of his elderly grandma at home and threw all the burdens on his cousin. This kind of behavior, to put it mildly, is yearning for freedom and wanting to do one's own thing. To put it bluntly, it is irresponsible. If it weren't for Gene sending money back every month, people thought that this BD had died somewhere. Listening to these words in the ear, Mo raised her eyebrows slightly. There was no objection to this, because he thinks so too. The discussion soon stopped. Then the fishermen went about their own business. In this case, Mo also found a seat by himself and sat down. Time flies by with the sound of boats scratching the water. In a blink of an eye, Mo knew that he was almost there, because he had already heard the words of fishermen shouting, "I saw Whale Island." Walk to the bow and look around. Sure enough, he saw a green whale standing on the sea. This is how Whale Island got its name. Because it is shaped like a whale, it is named Whale Island. Soon, the ship arrived at the port of Whale Island. After getting off the boat, Mo thanked the captain. Then he walked over to the location pointed by the captain. Along the way, there were not many pedestrians. Obviously, this is not a time to rest. Climbing the stairway is not difficult for him. After a while, Mo came to his destination this time. It was a small house with a tavern sign on it. At this time, the front of the tavern was very deserted, and there were not many voices inside. Apparently, this was because it was not time for get off work, and no one went to the tavern for a drink. Lifting her foot, Mo walked into the tavern in front of her. "Welcome. What do you want to drink?" The woman who was wiping the bar counter reflexively said someone was coming. After finishing speaking, he raised his head and looked outside the door, wanting to see who was coming at this time. "Hello, sit here, please." Seeing that the person was someone he had never met, Mito was also taken aback for a moment, then reacted and directed Mo to sit down. Mo didn't directly say his identity, but nodded and walked over. He sat down where Mito pointed. "I don't drink. Do you have a drink?" Mo couldn't just sit like this, so he wanted a drink to see. Mito was taken aback for a moment, then hurriedly nodded and said, "Yes, yes." After all, she walked under the bar to look for it. After a while, a glass of orange drink was placed in front of Mo. Before leaving, Mito looked at Mo's face with some surprise and curiosity. She always felt that Mo's face looked familiar. However, the lack is not very sure. With doubts, Mito went inside the house. "Mom, come out and help me see. I feel that the person outside is very familiar, but I can't tell where." Mito said to his mother, hearing her daughter's words. The old woman looked up at Mito suspiciously. "So nervous? Is some acquaintance here?" Mito's mother said with a smile. The gentle voice made Mito's emotions calm down a little. "I don't know, but I think he might be an acquaintance." Mito shook his head and said what he said made the old woman very puzzled. Out of curiosity, he got up and walked outside. At this time, Mo was thinking about how to speak, taking a sip of the drink on the table. "Catherine." Suddenly, a word came from the inner hall not far away. Looking around, I saw an old woman walking over excitedly. "Son, is your mother Catherine Eve?" Walking in front of Mo, the old woman asked excitedly. Hearing this, Mito, who was following behind the old woman, couldn't help covering his mouth and looked at Mo in surprise. At this time, she also remembered why Mo looked so familiar. "It turned out to be your cousin's child." "I can tell." Mo nodded and said, "That's right. My mother is indeed Catherine Eve, and my name is Mo Eve. I am here this time mainly to see the graves of my grandparents." Listening to Mo's words, the old woman covered her mouth in tears and kept saying, I knew it, my sister. How could they have such a hard life, leaving without leaving a single descendant already? It's okay, they still have a grandson." By the way, kid, where's your mother? Why didn't she come over? After finishing speaking, he looked left and right, as if he wanted to find Catherine. After finding it out, he scolded him severely. For so many years, I have never gone back to see it once, nor have I contacted it. Letting my sisters lose their lives because of her, this is really not a son of man. My mother, she must be trapped in one place. Emomu thought for a while and replied like this. What? Trapped somewhere. Why can't get out for so long? The old woman and Mito looked at Emomu in shock. They thought about many things, but they never thought that this would be the case. Some people have been trapped for more than 10 years and have not been rescued. This situation is really confusing. Greedy Island, a game created by the Hunter Group. My mother is not strong enough, so she is trapped inside. Emomu said slowly, That's right. I don't know anything about Hunter either. The old woman said with emotion Chapter 30 Mito and Aunt, asking for flowers. Wait, this is wrong. Since Catherine is trapped and can't get out, why are you able to get out? Mito looked at Emomu puzzled and asked, Yes, we were actually trapped before, but now we can get out. Emomu nodded and said Mito asked suspiciously, Then Catherine? She doesn't want to come out. Emomu said, shaking her head without waiting for Mito to ask questions. Emomu continued, I suggested to let her leave Greed Island. There are some dangers there, but she has suffered from social fear for more than 10 years, the most advanced kind. Hearing this, Mito and the old woman couldn't help but looked at each other. Yes, my mother doesn't even want to leave the door now. Seeing this, Emomu confirmed with a nod. Then how does she usually buy food? How does she solve the material problem of life? Mito asked anxiously. Emomu said slowly, Don't worry about it. Before I left, I'd already left a huge sum of money. In addition to the various merchants I've contacted over the years, they will all provide door-to-door delivery services. So, my mother has no problems with her life. After listening to what Emomu said, Mito and the old woman also breathed a sigh of relief. That's okay. At least it's not a bad thing. Although that is the case, it is still not acceptable not to go out like this. It will suffocate people. The old woman said worriedly. I also have the same worries, so I came out to look for props that can help my mother. Emomu said with deep emotion. The old woman nodded in satisfaction and said, Good boy. Catherine is lucky to have a son like you. By the way, where's your father? Yes, I've been talking about it for so long, but I have never talked about Emomu's father. Mito is also very curious about this. Curious who took Catherine. I don't have a father. My birth is a bit special. Emomu explained all this. Emomu's words made the old woman and Mito look at each other involuntarily. They don't know how to comfort Emomu anymore. After all, his father is gone. So how can he comfort him? That festival. Don't get me wrong. I don't have a father, but my father is dead. I just really don't have a father. My mother gave birth to me with a special prop. Seeing Mito's expression, Emomu knew how much she was thinking. Yes. Quickly interrupt her comforting words. You child, how can a person be born without a father? The old woman said very worriedly. Yeah, even though you may not have met your father, it doesn't mean he doesn't exist. Mito said earnestly. Emomu looked at the two people in front of him who cared about her, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. And she didn't explain too much about her lack of a father. Son, what's your name? The old woman realized that she didn't know Emomu's name yet. My name is Emomu. Emomu Eve. Emomu said his first name and clicked his last name, by the way. Eve? After hearing Emomu's words, the old woman and Mito couldn't help but looked at each other, then calmly ignored the matter. Regarding this, Emomu, who saw the expressions of the two, was also speechless for a while. Okay, then your aunt will take you to see your grandparents. The old woman changed the subject and said to Emomu. Emomu nodded and said, All right, this is also the purpose of my visit this time. Wait for me for a while. I'll bring something over there. Mito said. Emomu nodded without saying anything, sitting in place, talking about various things with the old woman. Not long after, Mito came out with a small basket. Emomu glanced at the things on it and was slightly taken aback, but found that those were some sacrificial items. Seeing this, Emomu also reacted. I came here this time because I ignored those things. Let's go, I'm ready. Mito said with a smile, and Moo responded, and then followed Mito, walking towards an unknown location. Stopping and stopping along the way, the two passed a flat dirt road and crossed a muddy path. Finally, climbed the mountain. Obviously, Moo's grandparents were not buried in a short place, but in a high place. Who, although it is indeed a good thing to be buried in a high place. However, the problem now is that you know that you will be so tired when you get up. So don't bury it so high. While climbing the mountain, Moo looked ahead at Mito, who was panting and climbing slowly. Can't help but feel helpless for a while. Although such a big pair of meatballs vibrating in front of him is very eye-catching. However, at this speed, if it is only a round trip, the sky will be dark. Moo doesn't care about being in the company of animals in the forest. But he doesn't want to sleep with snakes, insects, rats, and ants. After all, Mito is just a businessman who runs a tavern in Whale Island. The usual amount of exercise is definitely not too much, even if it is better than ordinary people. But now to climb such a high mountain, you still need to climb with both hands and feet. It was too exhausting. Aunt Mito, why don't you tell me the location, and I'll go up by myself? And Moo hesitated for a moment and suggested, no, there are too many graves. I have to take you to your grandparents. Mito panted and rejected Moo's suggestion. Seeing Mito's insistence, Moo is also very melancholy. After thinking for a while, he asked tentatively, how about I carry you up? It will be faster. Hearing this, Mito couldn't help but look back at Moo. At this point, she also found a problem. After walking for so long and climbing mountains for so long, Moo's body, let alone panting, not even a drop of sweat came out. It's completely different from her situation where her body is already covered with fine sweat. Looking at the sky, Mito was also worried. It was getting dark, and she had to take Moo to find his grandparents' graves within 2 hours. Then I have to take Moo back to the tavern. Chapter 31. That's up to you. Mito hesitated for a moment, but finally agreed to Moo's suggestion. Hearing this, Moo also breathed a sigh of relief. If Mito disagrees, he will propose to go back today and come back tomorrow, or let Gon lead the way. However, now that Mito has agreed, things will be much easier. He walked a few steps quickly, came to Mito, and turned his back to Mito. Come up. Looking at the not-so-big back in front of him, Mito struggled for a while. I was very conflicted about this kind of thing and felt very embarrassed. But it's all here now. She really didn't want to climb again tomorrow. Strengthening his belief, Mito slowly fell on Moo's back and then hung on it. The moment the two touched each other, both of them felt the strangeness of the contact position. Didn't wear it? Oops, I'm wearing no trace today. Moo and Mito had different thoughts in their minds. Feeling the softness of the back, Moo stood up calmly. Then he started running and jumping up the mountain, planning to go to the cemetery quickly. He could have been able to fly. However, Mito is obviously not a nun person, not very suitable to know so many things. It's not good to know too much. It will lead her into unnecessary thoughts. Mito was very embarrassed at this time and kept cursing himself for his poor memory, for forgetting such an important thing. However, even if he knew, Mito never thought that he would be carried by Moo. Now she can't get off the ground casually, otherwise she will be even more embarrassed. As it is now, neither of them should have this matter. At least the senses are much better. But even though Mito thinks so, when Moo flew up with her on his back, her body bounced off Moo's body and pressed down. This made her feel even more ashamed. Moo was also very embarrassed about this. He swore it wasn't intentional. He obviously just wanted to get to the cemetery quickly, but who knew it would cause this situation? It's difficult. I really don't mean that. It's numb if my mother finds out about this. Why don't I feel ashamed of being counted down by her? Thinking of this, Moo hastened to speed up. It was impossible to stop and walk slowly. Now, the only way to make this embarrassing atmosphere disappear is to cut through the mess quickly and reach the cemetery as quickly as possible. For the rest, that's all talk. Taking your time will only lengthen the feeling which is more awkward. The two were silent, and Moo quickly arrived at a fork with Mito on his back. "Aunt Mito, where are we going?" Moo asked without stopping left. Mito was taken aback, then pointed to the left and said, "This is too fast." Mito was startled by Moo's speed. At this time, Moo has no time to care about her thoughts. After knowing the direction, he rushed out directly. The sudden action caused Mito, who was not mentally prepared, to lean back involuntarily. Then, under the will to survive, Mito directly hugged Moo's neck with both hands, pulling myself hard towards Moo. In an instant, Mito pressed on Moo's back and performed a meatball impact. "It feels stronger." Moo couldn't help but rolled his eyes. And Mito is also very ashamed, but she dare not let go. I can only hug Moo tightly and hide my head. "Oh, what am I doing?" Mito wished he could dig a hole and bury himself. At the beginning, I still thought about being a gentle person, but I didn't want to, but I became like this when I thought about it. Fortunately, this time of embarrassment and shame will soon be over. Moo's footsteps were fast, and he came to a cemetery in a short time. "Aunt Mito, is this here?" Moo stopped, looked at the small hills of dirt bags in front of him, and asked, "Yes, it's right here, right in front. Please let me down." Mito glanced around and said, Moo also followed the trend and put Mito down. After putting his feet on the ground, Mito also breathed a sigh of relief. "Come on this way." Mito led Moo to a larger grave. And on the tombstone at the head of the grave, the names of Moo's grandparents are written. Seeing this, Moo also breathed a sigh of relief. At least, the mission is complete. However, how to tell Catherine now is a problem. The time was when Moo trimmed the tomb, worshipped, and said something about Catherine. Going by quickly, in a blink of an eye, I saw that the sky was about to darken. Mito also couldn't help but ask, Moo, how much more do you have to say? The sky is getting dark soon. If it gets dark, it will be troublesome for us to go down the mountain. No, let's go down the mountain. Moo stood up, shaking his head at Mito, and said Mito breathed a sigh of relief, followed Moo and began to descend the mountain. There's a saying that it is easy to go up the mountain and difficult to go down the mountain. And Mito, who was originally difficult to go up the mountain, now it is even more difficult to go down the mountain. However, she still gritted her teeth and persisted. I didn't think about letting Moo carry it, because in her opinion, it's fine to be embarrassed once, but if you continue to be embarrassed, it's a bit unacceptable. It's just that it's getting late, and the situation is really beyond her control. If no decision is made, they will have to stay here tonight. As a last resort, Mito had to make Moo memorize it again. In order to get down to the mountainside faster, Moo did not choose to walk step by step this time. Instead, with Mito on his back, he made a big jump and jumped down the mountain. What? Why do you want to jump? Alas, no, we're going to die. Mito belatedly grabbed Moo's neck tightly and screamed at the top of his voice. It's not her fault. Anyone who jumps off a cliff while being carried by others will probably do the same. Even said, not as good as her listening to the deafening cry, Moo felt very helpless. But now he also knows that if he wants to appease Mito, it will be impossible. I can only wait until the ground and then go to appease. With this in mind, Moo silently controlled her body position. Slowly exert force on your feet, controlling your own falling speed. P.S. Let me tell you something, Kong Catfish is looking for a job, and I don't have so much time to write a book, but don't worry, Kong Catfish will finish writing this book slowly. After all, I was rewarded. Chapter 32 Mom Won't Mind. Asking for flowers, Duong. When it hit the ground, Moo was bounced again. Then he stood up straight. Auntie Mito, it's all right now. You can relax. Everything will be fine. Moo then began to comfort Mito and said, however, at this moment, Mito's body is weak, and he has no way to answer Moo's comfort. He could only roll his eyes and stare at Moo, the nephew whom he met on the first day. It's so hard. It's really, really hard. Why did she suffer from such a thing? One mistake, every step is wrong. If I had known earlier, I would not be offering sacrifices today. Mito felt regretful in his heart, but it couldn't be said. If asked, she even needs to smile and say it's okay. This is even more difficult. In this regard, Mito could only allow Mo Mu to carry himself all the way and was let down after returning home. It's not that she doesn't want to go. Just after putting it down, her feet were so weak that she couldn't stand up. In order not to waste time, Mito can only let Mo Mu carry on. When they return home, the old woman and Gon were anxiously waiting for the two of them to come back. "What's the matter?" the old woman asked Mito Aunt. "Are you all right?" Gon was also very anxious, rushed up, looked at Mito, and asked, faced with the concern of the two. "Mito is a little hard to say. Say you're weak-footed because you're scared? That is really hard to say." She didn't know, because her performance had misunderstood the old lady. The old woman looked at Mito thoughtfully and glanced at Mo Mu again. Okay, Gon. You and she may be tired. Let her go back to rest." The old woman comforted Gon and said after finishing speaking, he turned his head to look at Mo Mu and said, "Mo Mu, can you please help me carry Mito back to her room?" "Yes." Mo Mu was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said the old woman smiled and said, "I'm sorry, I, an old woman, really don't have the energy to do this kind of thing." "Grandma." Gon raised his hand aside, wanting to show that he could hold Mito too. "Gon, why don't you hurry up and take a shower? Don't you have to get up early to go fishing tomorrow?" Gon was interrupted by the old woman before he finished speaking. It was useful to divert the subject. As soon as Gon heard about it, he immediately became anxious. Leaving a word, he ran away in a hurry. At this time, Mito, who was picked up by Mo Mu, stared at his mother with wide eyes. A shameful thought came to her mind. And this idea, after returning to her room, after her mother settled down to eat Mo Mu, she got confirmation. "Daughter, did something happen to you and Mo Mu? Although you are a whole round older than Mo Mu, if you really agree, Mom can accept it." The old woman looked at Mito and said seriously, "At least, this is much better than watching you become an old girl without getting married." From the words of the old woman, it is not difficult to hear that it is in the country on the Whale Island side. The law does not limit the marriage of consanguineous relatives. If you count it seriously, the old woman and Mo Mu's grandma are sisters, and Catherine and Mito are cousins. Mo Mu and Mito are aunt and nephew, not 3 generations apart. "Mom, are you crazy? Why do you think that Mo Mu and I have such a thing?" Mito looked at the old woman with an absurd expression and said, "Also, I don't have such thoughts either." "No, impossible. If not, how could you have become like that before? Daughter, I know that you are in such a situation. It must be after you have tasted the taste between men and women." The old woman said with an expression that I was someone who came here. Although I didn't expect Mo Mu to be so strong, but don't lie to me, I didn't say that I disagree with you being together. Looking at the mother in front of him, Mito also knew that if he didn't make this matter clear today, I and Mo Mu will definitely be crazily suspected and even labeled in the end. As a last resort, Mito told what happened to him today, even if he was ashamed. After speaking, Mito looked at his mother expectantly. I hope the old woman can clearly know that she really has nothing to do with Mo Mu. However, Mito looked at the old woman's expression of, make it up at this time. She knew that what she said was useless at all. Undeterred Mito, he will continue to explain. "Okay, how you want to hide it is up to you, but I have to say something." The old woman waved her hands and said, "You are not young anymore. When Mo Mu becomes an adult, you can get married directly. Don't delay too long." After speaking, without waiting for Mito to reply, he walked out of Mito's room. Judging by her expression, it was obvious that the old lady was very happy at this time. On the contrary, Mito was completely dumbfounded. Without doing anything, I was given the impression that I was on good terms with Mo Mu. This development shocked Mito greatly. "Forget it. Time will give the answer," Mito finally said with a sigh. Mito waited in the room for a while. In the end, he endured the weakness of his legs and walked out. It is impossible for her to watch her mother drag her old body to arrange a room for Mo Mu. It is also impossible to watch my mother manage the tavern by herself. However, Mito, who walked out of the room, discovered it. She doesn't need to care about this matter at all. It is indeed the old lady who is arranging Mo Mu's room. However, it is the old woman who is talking, and Mo Mu is doing it. It's the tavern business, which Mo Mu can't help with, because he doesn't know how the tavern works. Also don't know which drinks. With Mito taking over, Mo Mu discovered that drinking in the tavern is not a simple matter. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, Mo Mu was lying on the bed. As soon as I closed and opened my eyes, it was the next morning. Apart from sleeping so well with Mo Mu, Mito's sleep quality is much worse. Shouting Mo Mu's name and don't stop all night long. This made the old woman smile knowingly when she heard it. But the reason why Mito did this was because she dreamed of the scene where Mo Mu jumped with her on his back. Chapter 33, A Little Dispute for Flowers. Mo Mu, it's all right. Let's have dinner together. Seeing Mo Mu, the old woman immediately greeted with a smile. Mito on the side also nodded with a smile, and Gon, who was helping place it, looked at Mo Mu curiously. He already knew the identity of Mo Mu. Gon was very curious about the fact that he had a cousin. The three people in front of him made Mo Mu feel a little dazed, especially when seeing the familiar face of Gon. He is even more so, even if you already know that this world is the Hunter x Hunter world. He still couldn't help but think about it. I was very emotional, but Mo Mu didn't slow down and follow the old woman's guidance. Came to Mito and sat down. Yes, originally Mo Mu wanted to sit next to Gon. However, the old woman lured Mo Mu to Mito intentionally or unintentionally. This performance made Mito very ashamed. But you can't point it out directly, and you have to keep smiling. By the way, Mo Mu, what are you going to do next? The old woman asked at the dinner table me. I plan to participate in this year's Hunter test. Mo Mu said without hiding quiet. After Mo Mu's words came out, everyone present was silent for a while. Mito's face turned cold in an instant. Apparently, this guy Kim Freaks came to mind. Most importantly, during this time, Gon also often talked about going to the Hunter test to find his father. Cousin, you have to take the Hunter test and become a hunter. Gon said excitedly. Mo Mu nodded and said, yes, I will participate in this Hunter test. Then when the time comes, I'll be with you. Boom! Before Gon could finish speaking, he was interrupted by a heavy slap on the table. Everyone looked around but saw the source of the sound. Mito looked at Gon seriously and said, Gon, you can't participate in the Hunter test. Why? This is the only way I can find my father. Gon asked anxiously. Mito was stunned for a moment, and then said firmly in his mind, if you can't, then you can't, then the Hunter test is too dangerous. You can't go there. After finishing speaking, Mito turned his head to look at Mo Mu and said seriously, although you are very welcome to come, please don't say such unrealistic words in front of Gon. Do you know how many people died during the Hunter test? Knowing that many people become bad after they become hunters? Why do you have to take the Hunter test and become a hunter? What's so good about a hunter? No, this person must not be allowed to stay here for long. I have to drive him away. Otherwise, Gon's desire to participate in the Hunter test will definitely not be suppressed. Mito was very nervous. Looking at the serious Mito with some anxious emotions in front of her, Mo Mu can also understand her situation. Although it may be different from Catherine, the basic situation is similar. It's all about being reluctant and afraid of losing. Otherwise, I wouldn't point out how dangerous the Hunter test is many times. Now it's almost time to point to Mo Mu's nose and say, don't spoil Gon. Sure enough, when faced with this kind of thing, the previous shame is not a thing at all. The Hunter test is not dangerous for me. Mo Mu put down the chopsticks in his hand, looked at Mito, and said, impossible. Mito yelled in complete disbelief. The Hunter test, which claims to have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of deaths every year, you say it is not dangerous to you. It is absolutely impossible. Mo Mu calmly stretched out his hand to press the compressed air and said, let's analyze why the Hunter test is so dangerous. One is that the Hunter test is to screen out the strongest people in the world. If they are not strong enough, they will be in danger. Secondly, generally speaking, in the Hunter test, you will go through forests and oceans, and you will deal with monsters or institutions, as well as candidates themselves. As long as you are strong enough, you can almost ignore them. Third, The Hunter test stipulates that people over the age of 12 can participate in the Hunter test. This means that in the perception of the Hunter Association, there are many people in this world who have shown great strength at the age of 12. It is estimated that to find these people, looking at these points, the Hunter test, as long as the strength is in place, there is almost no danger at all. Having said so much, let me ask again, what do you think of my strength? After listening to Mo Mu's words, Mito paused slightly. She was also stunned. Thinking about what Mo Mu said, she thinks there is no problem. Everything is because of a strength issue. And as far as she knows, Mo Mu is very powerful. After all, they were able to jump from such a high place, and they still brought her down unharmed. It is enough to see how strong Mo Mu is. You are very strong. That's your business. Gon is not strong, so you can't go. Mito admitted that Mo Mu is strong, but still won't let Gon to participate in the Hunter test. I'm all for Gon's good. Only by staying away from Hunter, Gon can live a life without fear. I didn't let him go with me. Mo Mu nodded and said, I'm going. Gon said firmly to Mito, no. Mito looked at Gon and said, seriously. Gon said with an unchanged expression, I'm going to find my father. I want to see why he can abandon me because of Hunter. Hearing this, Mito's complexion changed drastically and then fell silent. The old woman sighed helplessly. You have to prove your strength to me and catch the Swamp Lord, and I will allow you to participate in the Hunter test. Mito was silent for a while and finally said with Gon looking at him seriously instead of directly agreeing. Such a request was made. Yes, the Swamp Lord is that heavy and that big. Gon is absolutely impossible to catch. As long as you can't catch it, Gon won't talk about taking part in the Hunter test. Mito secretly thought, obviously this is an attempt to stop Gon in this way. Chapter 34, Fishing Time in Advance for Flowers. Okay, it's settled. Gon said with a happy smile after speaking. I started to eat breakfast. I'm going out. After leaving a word, Gon picked up the fishing rod and ran out in a hurry. Today, there is still more than half a month before the registration time for the Hunter test. Gon started the challenge of catching the Swamp Lord a week earlier than in the plot. Regarding this, Mo Mu raised her eyebrows, but she didn't expect it. The emergence of oneself will also cause this kind of development. However, even if this is the case, it has little to do with Mo Mu. When he appeared, the plot of this world had already changed. What's more, if he ended up in person, the plot would still be exactly the same, which is almost impossible. Of course, even if the plot has changed, where is the relationship between the characters? At this point, it still has little effect. You, Gon, how could he catch the Lord of the Swamp? Aren't you giving him an impossible task? If Gon hates you in the future, it will be troublesome. The old woman looked at Mito helplessly and said Mito was silent for a moment, and then said, Mom, even if Gon hates me in the future, I will do the same. Look at Jean. Since he became a hunter, he has lived a terrible life. He can't even take care of his children. Yep, I was right. Gon will never hate me in the future, but will thank me. Mito thought comfortingly in his heart. Although it is very shocking, I have to remind you, Aunt Mito, that the Hunter Association needs people like Gon. Mo Mu is going to make a psychological preparation for Mito in advance. The kind of swamp master you mentioned has a high chance of being caught by Gon. Mito retorted anxiously. Impossible. The weight of the Swamp Lord has already reached several tons. How could Gon be able to fish with this weight? Yeah, Mo Mu, could it be that you think too much? Does the old woman really believe this statement? Mo Mu looked at Mito next to him, and the old woman in front of him, touched his chin and asked, what do you think the power of human beings can achieve in this world? Clam? Why are you asking this again? A few hundred caddies, at most 1 ton. Mito said hesitantly, as far as I know, a child who is about the same age is Gon. His strength has reached 12 tons at this time. Mo Mu said slowly, what? Impossible. Mito exclaimed, lie. This is definitely lying to me. I didn't expect that Mo Mu, who looks so honest, would lie. I misunderstood him. Haven't you seen my behavior before? What do you think my behavior is? Mo Mu said, helplessly hearing Mo Mu's words. Mito's expression froze for a moment, and then he fell into deep thought. Compared with the strength of more than 10 tons, It seems that Mo Mu's performance of jumping from a height of hundreds of meters without any damage seems even more outrageous. Moreover, at that time, Mo Mu still danced with her behind her back. Not only was Mo Mu okay, she wasn't affected by the shock either. This discovery kept Mito silent for a long time. She had to admit, perhaps, the final situation was really like what Mo Mu said. Gon is sure to succeed this time, and then embarks on the journey of the hunter test. For a moment, Mito felt that the delicious breakfast in front of him was tasteless. She got up and went back to her room, shutting herself in the room. "Oh, Mito, I just can't let go of him," the old woman said helplessly. In this regard, Mo Mu didn't know how to interrupt and chose to continue eating breakfast. After breakfast, Mo Mu didn't know how to help. "I asked and said that I don't need to help myself." Hearing this, Mo Mu stepped aside temporarily and continued his practice. He intends to live here for a while after the hunter test registration, board the boat directly on the Whale Island side, and go to the hunter for testing. During this period of time, he planned to carry out practice in order to increase the upper limit of his thoughts. By the way, practice your fighting skills again. He is able to exert strength all over his body. So, as I said before, ordinary fighting skills are not suitable for him. However, I don't want to fight. Once, Mo Mu thought of irregular fighting techniques. It's very simple. That is to only practice basic skills, and then use whatever is available when fighting. Time flies by. During the period, Mito also came out of the room and started today's work. She needs to prepare all kinds of materials that will be used in the tavern tonight. Mo Mu is exercising. Of course, Mito saw it. Really didn't bother. Unlike Gon, Mo Mu is just a nephew she just met and can't control too much. Very good. Judging from the current situation, my fighting style does not require too much skill, as long as you can let any part of your body touch the opponent. If it weren't for the fact that fighting is too cheating, then this fighting style is really suitable for me. Pity. Still, it's okay for now. Basic attack skills, coupled with the imitation of the principle of shaved, achieved by kinetic energy ejection Shuanpa. Enough to enhance my mobility. This skill spans tens of meters in an instant. It seems that few people can avoid it, unless the opponent is particularly strong or has some special none. Mo Mu, who is practicing, is very satisfied with his current progress. From the corner of the eye, he saw Mito, trained by Mo Mu, but at this moment he was terrified. The kind of speed that you can't even see clearly is really scary. Where has she seen such a situation? While being surprised, I also understood how confident Mo Mu is when he's going to take the hunter test. Looking at Mo Mu, Mito fell into deep thought. She was worried about Gon's safety and didn't know what danger Gon would encounter if he went to participate in the hunter test. If only at this time, there is someone who can help her watch Gon. That should be a wonderful thing. Thinking of this, Mito couldn't help but smile. But then Mito restrained himself again. No, although it is true that he is his nephew, Mo Mu and Gon have not known each other for a long time after all. It is really unreasonable for him to risk his life to look after a familiar stranger. Chapter 35. Deep Sea Practice for Flowers. Mito, who was thinking about Mo Mu's situation, became entangled again for a while. She didn't know how to speak. This entanglement has been directly entangled for several days. In this regard, Mo Mu is also unaware. Although it can be seen that Mito seems to have something on his mind. But I just think that Mito is worried that Gon will catch the Swamp Master. It has little to do with myself. After practicing honestly for a few days, after getting a little familiar with the fighting skills of pointing and raising the upper limit of Nian Ki a little bit, Wuxia started a new practice method. He needs to accumulate his energy. Before, he relied on the boa constrictor to improve himself. Now, on Whale Island, there are no such monsters. If it is collected in the usual way, then Mo Mu's strength will be greatly reduced. Mo Mu doesn't want this, so he needs to find another way. After searching, he really found a good way. That is going to sea. In seawater, the deeper the place, the higher the water pressure. As long as Mo Mu can solve his breath-holding time problem, he can use the water pressure of the powerful deep sea area to allow himself to reach the time to collect super energy reserves. In order to carry out this plan, Mo Mu came to the edge of cliff on Whale Island. Looking at the sea below, he jumped in without any hesitation. With a splash, a huge splash was splashed on the sea surface, and Mo Mu disappeared above the sea. In this situation, it seems that Wuxia is throwing himself into the sea. Fortunately, no one saw it this time. Otherwise, today's Whale Island would be lively. Falling into the sea, Mo Mu didn't have any intention of staying. He needed to stay as deep as possible before his own oxygen ran out. Yes, Mo Mu is not stupid. Why can't he use some tools when his breath-holding ability is not strong? Oxygen cylinders may be difficult to buy on Whale Island, but a sealed iron barrel is easy to find. Mo Mu uses the principle of the diving bell to achieve his own goals. The principle of the diving bell is like a glass cup buckled upside down in the water. There's always a certain amount of air in the cup for the diver to breathe, so that the diver can stay underwater for a long time. This approach requires a certain amount of strength to be successful. As for the protection issue, what Mo Mu needs is the pressure of these water pressures, and there is no need to think about it at all. He just needs to keep his oxygen supply going. Relying on this method, Mo Mu slowly fell to the bottom of the sea near Whale Island. Not high, only a few hundred meters. And the more it is like traveling abroad, the deeper it will be able to descend. As Mo Mu went deeper and deeper, more and more energy was stored in his body. In the sea as deep as an abyss, Mo Mu's sight is greatly restricted, but gave his circle a good workout. And this also made Mo Mu discover a surprising problem. Fish here are plentiful. In addition, there are many particularly large fish swimming by. One of them even chose to attack Mo Mu because he was curious about the iron bucket that Mo Mu brought down. She didn't have the habit of going inside the belly of the fish, and Mo Mu also directly used the energy stored in the golden elixir. In an instant, the bow of the boat smashed the head of the fish, killing this mighty big fish on the spot. This fish is very big, at least 18 meters in length, weighing tens of tons. If it can be sold, it will definitely get a good value. It also happens to be able to solve the problem of spending his time during this period. It's just that he still has to continue to practice deep sea pressure. For a while, you can't leave it, Will. And if you want to find someone to help carry it, but such a heavy fish is no longer able to be carried by anyone in Whale Island relying on physical strength. If you want to move this fish, not even Gon can do it. But if Mo Mu relies on the energy in the golden core to push, then he doesn't need to call someone. In this case, Mo Mu might as well cheat by transferring his own damage. Hold it directly above your head. Use your ability to absorb the pressure of the big fish's injury, and then take it back by walking. But if you do this, it'll be too slow. What a waste of time. With this time, he might as well stay in the sea for a while longer to increase the upper limit of energy storage for this deep sea practice. It's troublesome. What should I do now? Staying in the diving bell, Mo Mu stared at the big fish he was pulling casually in his hand, feeling helpless for a while. It's not a matter of me practicing here and pulling this big fish all the time. Moreover, this big fish is still bleeding, and it may attract the surrounding meat-eating fish at any time. Although I'm not afraid, I can't transport so many fish. Glancing at the air volume in the drum, Mo Mu estimated how much time he could remain underwater. I soon came up with this method of relying on the air of the diving bell to breathe and then holding my breath in the water. At least you can let yourself stay underwater for 1 hour. His current breath holding time is about 3 minutes, and the air in the iron bucket can at least allow him to take more than 50 breaths. Even if you don't take the maximum time to hold your breath, it only lasts for 2 minutes. More than 50 air changes can also allow me to last for nearly 2 hours. The reason for estimating to stay in the sea for 1 hour is just because we need to reserve some time to deal with accidents. In other words, Mo Mu is a small iron drum. Thinking, Mo Mu senses to look around. If you're not under siege, then wait another hour. With this in mind, Mo Mu did not leave the sea directly, but chose to continue practicing. His luck was good. During this hour, he was indeed not besieged by fish. This may be because the bleeding hole on the big fish is relatively small. This is also good, just happy and relaxed. seeing that there is not much air in the iron bucket. Mo took the iron bucket and the big fish and swam towards the surface of the sea. There is no way to go up this side of the cliff. Although he himself is indeed able to ignore the damage caused by the weight of the big fish, but he has no way to remove the weight of the big fish. Chapter 36 Cheap Sale? Ask for flowers. Wanting to rely on the stored energy to push himself and the big fish up a cliff more than 10 meters away is really a waste of energy. It's better to go to the port so that you can spend a small amount of energy to bring the big fish back. Moreover, he was able to sell the big fish by the way at the port. It's definitely a good thing to do a lot of things in one fell swoop. At 10 o'clock this morning, a large number of fishermen in the port were busy sorting the fish they caught. Some buyers who came to buy sea fish are also wandering around at this time, choosing the sea fish they can see. As for those who have a cooperative relationship, the seller and the buyer are not considered here, because after they salvaged the sea fish, they sent them directly to the place where the acquirers were. The place is not far, just in a few nearby cities. Otherwise, the fishermen on Whale Island would not have delivered. Look, what is that? At this moment, a fisherman pointed at the sea and exclaimed following these words. Almost all the fishermen meowed over there. Whatever it is, it's not a big deal to catch a glimpse. If there is an accident, it is better to let yourself get a faster reaction time. At this glance, all the fishermen's eyes widened, because in front of their eyes, a huge fish slowly floated up from the sea. Oh, this. Sperm. Run fast. Waiting for the big fish to come and eat you. Yeah. Hurry up and call your family, and the others will prepare the boat. Damn it. You guys just run away. Don't you plan to resist? Maybe we can win. Maybe we fed that big fish and the others don't have to die. Hey, what are you talking about? Wait, look. Just when the fishermen were about to escape, someone noticed something wrong on the sea. Under the big fish, there seemed to be something else. Everyone fixed their eyes and saw a young man covered in water droplets, with his hands raised high, holding the big fish, moving slowly towards the port while shaking his body. Look, that big fish is dead. A fisherman also discovered the dead fish. As fishermen all their lives, how could they not check whether the fish is dead or not? Obviously, the big fish in front of him is already dead. This is the general of the He family. Unexpectedly, so brave. At this time, in the fisherman's mind, there is only such a surprised thought. They stared blankly at the boy carrying the huge fish onto the open space of the port, and they were stunned for a moment. Brother Emomu. At this moment, one of the fishermen who brought Emomu to Whale Island shouted unexpectedly, "Hey, Lauwen, do you know him?" The fishermen around asked in surprise. Of course, Brother Emomu came here on our boat before. You would never have guessed that he is a relative of the Freak's family. Ah, you mean Sister Mito's family? Yes, Brother Emomu is the nephew of Sister Mito. I really didn't expect this little brother to be so strong. Yeah, that fish, by visual inspection, has exceeded 15 meters and weighs at least 20 tons. Stuck with such a weight, you can still lift it up and walk. This little brother's strength is amazing. No, I'm afraid if you touch us casually, we will all have to be hospitalized for a few months. Putting down the big fish that was lifted casually, Emomu also breathed a sigh of relief. This time he was playing big, even though he could really ignore the weight of the big fish. However, his strength is still insufficient. It is impossible to support and lift this big fish. Yes, he couldn't walk with the big fish easily as he thought. He still needs to use the stored energy to assist himself to be able to do this. From here, he also came to a point. Hitting and lifting are two different things. Strike Shock, his damage transferability, seems to have no upper limit. However, lifting is not enough. This thing has something to do with his own strength. Emomu should have thought of this a long time ago. After all, if it is true that one can lift a big fish even when one's own strength is insufficient, can the planet under his feet be lifted up for the same reason? Obviously, Emomu couldn't do this. Otherwise, the planet under his feet would have already stopped moving. And once the planet stops moving, according to the inertia of the planet's rotation, except for him, other objects on this planet have long been thrown into the universe. Very helpless, I lost the domineering means. Of course, Mo Mu quickly dismissed the matter. It's good to have a golden finger, and I'm still picky. That would be too greedy. Slap. Mo Mu clapped his palms twice, attracting the attention of everyone in the port. Then he said, "Everyone, you have all seen this big fish beside me, right? It is obviously impossible for such a big fish to stay and eat by itself. You are all acquaintances of the Freak's family. This time, I will take it as a favor for everyone. 1,000 nuns and one caddy of fish. I think everyone is very interested." Hearing Mo Mu's words, the people around immediately stood up in awe. It's not that Mo Mu said the price is too expensive, but that Mo Mu said the price is too low. This is a huge sea fish that you may not see once in decades. If this kind of fish is sold seriously, it will be sold at a low price if it does not cost 35,000 a caddy. Therefore, the 1,000 ring nuns offered by Mo Mu is really a free gift. Even if you buy it, you don't want to eat it yourself, as long as you can prove it's the meat of a big fish. If you resell it, you can earn 35 times more. This kind of thing is crazy when you think about it. No one can bear it. You can make a lot of money without taking any risks. Who can refuse such a good thing? Of course, because it's too ridiculous. Not everyone is convinced either. The only thing is that Mo Mu is joking with them again. After all, if it were them, they would never do this. Chapter 37, It's Just a Reward, Flowers asked. "Little brother, since this is the case, why don't you just sell this big fish to me directly? Our company will definitely be able to eat this big fish." Seeing that the rest of the people were silent, a purchaser who came to buy seafood left first come out and say the first thing he said was to buy the big fish in Mo Mu's hand. And he didn't mean to give the fisherman of Whale Island a drink of soup. "No, little brother, sell it to me, and we will pay you 1,500 quats per caddy." However, at this time, the rest of the seafood buyers were not happy. Everyone is here to buy seafood. Why should you take advantage of it? Immediately, almost all the acquisition personnel began to join the bidding. He didn't even mean to ask Mo Mu. Obviously, in their view, it is absolutely impossible for Mo Mu to refuse such a big offer. After a while, the price of these purchasers has been pushed up to 30,000 ring nuns. It is almost close to the lowest price of the acquisition. However, just like that, no one stopped. In a blink of an eye, this price was pushed up to 50,000 ring nuns. Apparently, for a fish this nearly 18 meters long, it was worth the price. 50,000 a caddy. This big fish weighs about 20 tons. 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms, or 2,000 caddies. 20 tons, it is 40,000 caddies. In other words, if Mo Mu directly sells this big fish now, he can get an income of 2 billion quat. How? Say more and say more. Say less and say less. The reason for saying too much is that this amount of money is enough for a person to live a prosperous life for a lifetime. To say the least, because the money is not even a fraction of a greedy island game console. This is outrageous. It can also be seen that for the rich and the low-level people, the gap between them is really too big. Just when everyone thought Mo Mu would agree to sell the big fish. But I saw Mo Mu rubbing his chin, smiling at the purchaser who offered 50,000 rings a caddy and asking, "Are you from Whale Island?" The man was taken aback for a moment, then shook his head to indicate that he was not from Whale Island. "Then I'm sorry. Although it is indeed very profitable to sell it to you, I have already said that this big fish is for the welfare of the islanders of Whale Island. If I sell it to you, I will become a fisherman, the kind of person who has no credit." Mo Mu shook his head and said, "So, among those who just bid, is anyone from Whale Island?" Hearing Mo Mu's words, the acquisition personnel looked at each other in dismay. Obviously, there is no such person among them. In this regard, Mo Mu expressed regret and said, "Then there is no other way. I will sell it to the islanders of Whale Island. Go and buy it from them yourself. Fathers and elders, I will leave this fish to you. How much it sells for is up to you. I only need 40 million ring nuns here. Just take it as your reward for helping to collect the corpses of my grandparents." This sentence, Mo Mu did not say it, because there is no need to say it. And this is why Mo Mu sacrificed so much of his economy to sell big fish cheaply, because he's giving back to these islanders, helping his grandparents to pay back. Although I haven't seen them before, they are at least my mother's real parents. Others can help after their death without any pay. That's it. Enough for Mo Mu to pay off. If they didn't know that they didn't want anything, maybe these islanders would still refuse. Mo Mu doesn't even want that 40 million. After all, with his strength, if he wanted to make money. It was so easy. During this time, I was poor and had no money. That's just because time doesn't allow it. Seeing Mo Mu leaving, the fishermen present couldn't help but looked at each other. Brother, are you really planning to leave this money on Whale Island? It seems so. Although that's what I said, it's really tricky for me to hold such a large sum of money. Who said it wasn't? Let's ask the island chief to see how to deal with the money. There will be a clear statement on whether it will be distributed door to door, used to build facilities on the island, or returned to that little brother. Yeah, that's a good idea. No, just do it like this. Mo Mu stopped Mito's words and said, as for what she said about returning the money to herself, Mo Mu never thought about getting it back. All had been handed over. If you take it back, it's not appropriate. Moreover, this is what he used to thank others, and now he wants to come back. It's really too cheating. Okay, I understand. Mito nodded and did not continue to ask. She also knows what Mo Mu is thinking, and she has a particularly good sense of Mo Mu at this time. If you can think about rewarding those who have helped you, no matter how messy you are, it will not be a bad thing. The appearance of Mito did not stop Mo Mu's practice. Although as long as he can endure the feeling of suffocation, he can stay on the bottom of the sea and complete super intensive energy collection. After all, he can only suffocate, but he will not die from the suffocation damage. But Mo Mu didn't want to do that. The feeling of suffocation, after he tried it once, he didn't want to try it again. Therefore, if conditions permit, he will always go to sea with oxygen. Whether it is carrying an iron bucket or an oxygen cylinder, scuba, and the like. It will be all right, as long as oxygen is available. On the contrary, the bottom of the sea is very dark. If a person stays in a claustrophobic place for a long time, more or less there will be some psychological problems. Those who say no, simply because they have not experienced such a thing. It is the fear that this will happen to me. So, Mo Mu made a decision. It will only take half a day on the bottom of the sea at most. This time is over. Either way, he's leaving. In this case, unless he can find electronic products to take into the sea. Otherwise, it's really hard for him to do it. It's not that he doesn't want to explode with one punch. It's just that the price is a bit high. At the cost of becoming a lunatic, even if he can blow up the planet with one punch. I guess there won't be any excitement. After practicing for a while, Mo Mu took the iron bucket to the edge of the cliff again. Chapter 38. A Book of Journeys to the New World, 4 Flowers. In the past few days, Mo Mu is not only practicing and strengthening his energy reserves. For the rest of the time, he didn't relax. For this world, Mo Mu knows too little. Everything I've seen and heard is just what I've seen in anime. It is even said that even the information encountered in anime is actually very little. Many species have only been seen, but do not know their information. In this case, it can be said that Mo Mu's understanding of the world is blank. In order not to let myself be so ignorant, during this period of time, Mo Mu also bought a lot of books about exotic animals and various encyclopedias in the bookstore on Whale Island. After buying these books, Mo Mu spent nearly 100,000 ring nuns. If it weren't for the 40 million ring nuns earned by that big fish some time ago, Mo Mu would have a lot of headaches now. Among these books, the one that makes Mo Mu most curious is the book Journey to the New World. Yes, it is the book that introduces the Dark Continent. According to the introduction in the book, on the side of the Dark Continent, the most dangerous things to humans are not all kinds of large creatures. Rather, those poisonous insects flying all over the sky, and all kinds of strange creatures with strange abilities. From this point of view, no matter whether it is an army or an individual, as long as it enters it unprepared, all kinds of strange creatures, poisonous insects, and strange plants in the Dark Continent can definitely teach him to be a man. While practicing, Mo Mu read various books, including Journey to the New World. For a while, I was immersed in the wonderful introduction of the book. These books are all encyclopedia-type books. Even Journey to the New World is not a novel. It is an encyclopedia book about some animals and plants insects, minerals, water sources, ruins, etc. on the Dark Continent. It can be regarded as an encyclopedia around Lake Mobius. On the above, various graphic introductions are clearly visible. Mo doesn't know. We're the strange shapes of the animals and plants on the Dark Continent. Or Dong Freaks has a problem with his personal style of painting. In this journey to the new world, Crusoe's style has a strong sense of sight. Weird, scary. When I saw this, an idea even emerged in Moo's heart. Couldn't it be, on the Dark Continent, there really is the existence of crucifix? It's not surprising that Moo would have this idea. Even through some understanding of anime, he discovered that in the world of Hunter x Hunter, about this kind of existence, it seems that there are not a few. After all, this is a fantasy world. There's a strange none that can respond to the heart. People's hearts are complicated, and no one knows what is going on in that person's heart. This point is only in the Hunter x Hunter New World chapter. The princes in that country, their Nyin beasts, are more weird than the other. The style catches up with Crusoe, making those who see it fearful. This world is so wonderful that I can hardly imagine. Moo casually closed the books in his hand and said with emotion the book, Journey to the New World, is not too thick. Not even half of the Encyclopedia of Warcraft on the side. And most of it has pictures on it. So it doesn't take long to watch it once. However, in order to deepen the impression, I watched Moo several times. Hey, Miss Mito, Mrs. Freaks, come on, boy gone. He actually fished up the lore of the swamp. And he's at the port now. At this moment, Mito and the old woman who were preparing the materials to be used in the evening, and Moo, who had just put down the books in their hands, heard such an excited shout together. For a moment, the emotions of the three of them underwent three different changes. Mito is jittery. The old woman is proud. None of the men in their family is weak. Moo is relieved. The time has come to this time. Clang Clang Mito dropped what he was doing and rushed directly to the port pier. The old woman's legs and feet are inconvenient, so she can only focus on Moo. Moo, quickly help me watch Mito. The old woman pointed to the direction where Mito disappeared and said anxiously, no problem. Moo nodded and said after speaking. Moo also chased after her. Moo is much faster than Mito. It only took 10 seconds. He has already come to Mito's side. Such a hurry can't change the fact that Gon hooked up the Swamp Lord. Let him go to the Hunter test. Is it really that scary for you? Moo has also gotten to know Mito a lot these days. Talking no longer the kind of politeness before. Mito said with a serious face, what do you know, I will not stop Gon from participating in Hunter now, but he's still too weak. At least I have to have your strength, so I can rest assured. My strength? Do you want Gon to be the president of the Hunter Association? Moo rolled his eyes and said, even if you don't have such strength, you should at least have half of your strength. Mito was stunned, and then said seriously it's not that she's falling too fast. It was because she remembered the perversion of Moo's strength. Moo shrugged and said, then work hard. After finishing speaking, Moo stopped talking and slowly followed Mito to the port pier. As soon as he came to the port, Moo saw the big fish that was fenced in at first sight. The master of the swamp. This is a big fish with a body length of 4 meters and nearly 5 meters. The color of the whole body is extremely bright. On the Swamp Lord's abdomen, there were more than a dozen pairs of slender and pointed feet of shrimps. Slap because he is not dead yet. The Swamp Lord is currently jumping around actively. However, in Moo's view, this is because the Swamp Lord is a little lack of oxygen. Because Gon was going to take part in the Hunter test, Mito and Gon had an argument. However, Mito, who had promised Gon earlier, but it is very passive, just because she herself said she can't break her promise. Once she refused to allow Gon to take the Hunter test, after that, she would have no credit for speaking in front of Gon. Chapter 39, Temperament Near 30. Ask for flowers, please. Looking at the woman standing in front of her, bowing to her begging, Moo felt a headache. I thought that I was staying at Mito's house, that is, waiting for the time to go to the Hunter test with Gon. Now he's all signed up with Gon, but never thought of it. The day after he signed up with Gon, Mito came to his door. Straight to the point, I gave him this one. Please what? What else could it be? not just let him train Gon and let Gon become stronger during this period of time. But obviously, in only 1 week. If you want to make Gon stronger, that is only to practice mindfulness. But there's also a problem. Although Gon's talent is indeed very high, in a week's time, you can definitely master entangling. It seems that everything can be taught. But in fact, Momu knew that this would not work at all. It's not that Momu doesn't want to teach. Rather, Gon simply cannot learn. At least, during this period of time, he must not learn this stuff. For what? That's right, it has something to do with the Hunter test. Through the plot, Momu doesn't learn much about the world of Hunter x Hunter, though. However, he knows those people quite well. When Gon was not a nun, then during the Hunter test, Gon showed a strong talent. In fact, it will be noticed by the Hunter examiner. If it is really in danger of death, examiners will provide limited help. After all, once they make a shot, it is equivalent to saving a future star for the Hunter Association. No force will really push a genius out. Even if the so-called conditions are fair, they will not. In the entire human world, there are only a few hundred hunters. One can imagine how rare Hunter is. And rarity means that this force will value geniuses more. Otherwise, how would the Hunter Association develop? But if Gon learned to read Ki, all this would be different. It doesn't matter if you only studied for a week, or a year, or 10 years. This all means that Gon is a person with a self-cultivated mind. It is very likely that it is not from the Hunter Association, but from other forces. Whether it's true or not, the people of the Hunter Association will take it for granted. Just like Hisoka and Yirmi, they were not really regarded as their own by the Hunters from the beginning to the end. Without the support of the examiner, Gon's safety rests entirely on Momu. If at some point he and Gon separated, then Gon was cheated to death for no reason. That would be bad. In order to avoid this situation, it is absolutely impossible for Momu to let Gon learn Ki before Hunter's test. He can only be taught by the people of Xinyuan Liu. Only in this way can he be regarded as one of Xinyuan Liu's own people, not outsiders like Momu. If you don't need mind energy to make a person stronger, what else can you do? If it takes longer, Momu has plenty of solutions. But now there is 1 week left. This time, it gave Momu a headache. I had to press my head to make myself feel better. Seeing Momu's embarrassment, Mito was also embarrassed. She also knew that she was a little overpowering. However, she was really worried about Gon's safety. Even if she is whimsical, she still wants to make Gon stronger within a week. This will also give the Gon a higher chance of survival. Aunt Mito, I won't lie to you, I do have a way to make Gon stronger many times in a week. Momu looked at Mito and said seriously, but I can't teach Gon. Hearing Momu's words, Mito was stunned for a while, and then said disappointedly, it's okay, it's okay. It's already good if you promise to help me watch Gon. Saying that, Mito wanted to smile to face Momu. Listen to me first. With my method, once Gon has learned it, he will lack the protection of the examiner in the next Hunter test. After all, I have the test, and it is impossible to watch Gon all the time. Momu shook his head lightly and said, so, in my suggestion, I still think it's better for Gon not to learn this method. After all, there is too much time. If there is a year, I don't need to be so entangled. Why is that? Mito also didn't expect such a statement. For example, take fishing for example. You said, those fishermen will accept some apprentices who know the basics and are destined to be on their side. Or they will accept some apprentices who apply with a little skill and may come to compete with themselves in the end. Of course, I know the basics. Wait, you mean the situation the Hunter test is also the same? Mito paused and said, thoughtfully, Momu nodded and said, that's right. The method I said is exactly what you must learn after becoming a hunter. Once Gon learns a little bit in advance, his value will be greatly reduced because his cousin's attention will also be affected. Much less. It's actually not good for Gon. Sorry, I misunderstood you. Please forgive me. Mito was not as tough and serious in front of Momu as he was in front of Gon. The attitude of admitting mistakes is very good. This also has some reasons for Momu's temperament. Although Momu's face is indeed very young, with collagen on his face. However, his mature temperament makes people who get along with him often think that Momu is a young man who is approaching 30. Mito is also one of them. During this time, she often ignores this point. This made her heart flutter from time to time. Then after he realized it, he had no choice but to scold himself in his heart for wanting to be crazy about men. "It's okay. I can't help you much." Emomu shook his head and said, "Then I won't disturb your practice." Mito again ignored the age of Emomu. Emomu looked at Mito, who left, and suddenly shouted, "Wait, I thought a way to make Gon stronger in a short time." Chapter 40, Official Boarding. 4 flowers. Time flies in the blink of an eye. Days have passed. Today is exactly the time for Emomu and Gon to participate in the hunter test and board the ship. Because of this, Emomu woke up early this morning. After washing up, he went directly to the kitchen and ate the breakfast that Mito had prepared earlier. Beside him sat Gon, who was eating food fast. After breakfast, Emomu and Gon bid farewell to Mito and the old lady. Then the two walked towards the pier. After arriving at the pier, Emomu discovered an unexpected situation. The pier, which is usually bustling with the fishing season, lacks fishing activities today. Although there are still many people, the atmosphere is different. Emomu guessed that this should be because today is the day that hunter test boards. The elders on Whale Island made a decision in order not to affect the smooth progress of the exam. However, this is obviously not a spontaneous action by fishermen. After all, life is so stressful. No one will lose a day of money because of a hunter test that has little to do with him. For a family that is not rich at all, who knows how much it will lose if they stop fishing for a day? If anyone stops, it won't be all fishermen. It can allow fishermen to stop working during this fishing period and have nothing to do for a day. Among these, there's only one case where it can be done. That is money. Only when the money is in place. People don't care what holiday it is today, therefore. The Hunter Association, in order to allow the hunter test to be held smoothly in the entire human world. They give large financial subsidies to places where they can land. Among them, Whale Island is one of these subsidy points. This has long been used as one of the regular landing sites for hunter tests. Of course, you can have this benefit and want to become the condition of the landing place. It's actually really easy. Only one of the following conditions must be met. One is that the population density must be large. Therefore, places where many people gather will be set up as starting points for hunter testing. The second is that areas with a high degree of prosperity in the human world, almost all large cities have the starting point of the hunter test. 3. In that place, a powerful hunter appeared, and this is the only condition that Whale Island can meet. For extremely steep areas, such as cliffs and the like. In fact, such conditions are rarely used because few candidates will start from this starting point. This kind of condition is a willful condition proposed by the chairman of Netero and negotiated by the 12 earthly branches. Among these conditions, Whale Island only meets the third one. There have been powerful hunters in the region. This mighty hunter is none other than Gon's father, Kim Freaks. He is also the 12 earthly branches of the Hunter Association. Hunter test starting points will have their own conditions. The conditions on Whale Island are very simple. Candidates need to board the ship within 15 minutes of the stipulated time. Candidates who cannot board the ship within this time will directly lose their qualifications as candidates. In fact, this is not so strict. There are also some starting points, and candidates will be required to search for beans in a short period of time. If you find it, you pass the level. If you can't find it, you fail. Don't think it's easy because this thing is going to be done in the sand. Hey, in a pile of sand, quickly find some beans. If there is no knowledge in it, almost impossible to do. However, if you think about it carefully, in recent years, there have been millions of candidates applying for the hunter test. For the Hunter Association, if there are no screening activities, just relying on hundreds of hunters, how can there be so much effort and venue to conduct hunter tests together? It is precisely because of this that in a Hunter x Hunter plot, when Gon and the others went to the hunter testing site, there are only 406 candidates on site. That's where these screening campaigns come in. Of course, fishermen don't work, but they come to join in the fun. Today is the day for Mo, and Gon to participate in the hunter test. As part of Whale Island, they all have to come and witness. Yes, Mo has been incorporated into the Whale Island in disguise. Regarding this, Mo also looked confused, but didn't say much. Amidst the greetings of the islanders of Whale Island, Moo and Gon walked quickly towards the test boat that Hunter was testing. As soon as they boarded the ship, Moo and Gon were stared at by candidates on the deck. Because of the lively situation on the pier just now, these candidates paid great attention to Moo and Gon. Everyone looks very vicious. From their eyes, it can also be seen that they are very confident in themselves. It seems that this Hunter test is bound to win. These people looked at Moo and Gon with vain eyes, and their contempt was about to show. When seeing the situation of Moo and Gon, many people laughed with disdain. Taking advantage of the trend, it also put Moo and Gon in the ranks that are absolutely not a threat to themselves. After all, in their opinion, Moo and Gon might not even be able to pass the first test. Where is the threat at all? Since there is no threat, the candidates on the ship no longer spend more time paying attention. Just think of Moo and Gon as the air that can be seen everywhere. Moo grinned, also enjoying herself leisurely, standing on the edge of the ship, watching the people on the pier who have not yet dispersed. Boom, 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 Gon ignored the people around and hurried to Moo's side. Taking a deep breath, he shouted loudly to the pier under the boat, "Everyone, take care. I will definitely come back as an excellent hunter." The voice was so loud that the candidates on the side looked over one after another. And Moo, who had known about this for a long time, let go of his hands covering his ears. Gon, this kind of thing you could talk to Aunt Mito down below and then come up. Moo glanced at the eyes of the group of candidates behind him and said indifferently, "It's nothing useful, but it's going to be annoying." "Ah, I'm sorry, Cousin Moo." Gon looked at Moo and said apologetically, "Chapter 41, The Storm Strikes." Flowers asked, "Tis K, become an excellent hunter? Children are ignorant, so what they say is a little louder. So, it is understandable." "Understood. I can't understand this." On our side, there are quite a few candidates who have the strength to become hunters. Calculate the powerhouses from all over the country. There are so many people who can become hunters. He is a brat, and he even said wildly that he would become an excellent hunter. Little ghost, your words really make people angry. Gon's words obviously caused dissatisfaction among many people on board. These people kept attacking Gon and Moo with sarcasm. The malice in the eyes could not be concealed at all. Keep staring at Gon and Moo. No way. We'll let Moo and Gon be together. For the matter of being stared at by so many people, both Moo and Gon chose to ignore. Anyway, there will be no contact in the future, so why care about their opinions? Gon is too restless, and Moo doesn't want to move very much. So, Moo watched Gon running around, found a random place, and sat down. The ignorance of the two made the other candidates very angry. However, here is the boat going to the hunter test site, surrounded by candidates. Therefore, no candidate is the first to act. For a moment, the surroundings of Moo also fell silent. At this time, in the distance, flocks of seagulls appeared. Most people can hear the calls of these seagulls. Candidates didn't know why, so they glanced at it and then looked away. There were only Moo and Gon. One nodded knowingly, and the other cautiously jumped in front of Moo from a distance. "Cousin, there's a storm coming." Gon looked at Moo and said seriously, "Well, let's get closer to the cabin." Moo stood up, patted his clothes, and beckoned Gon to the cabin. Gon shook his head and said, "I'm going to inform the captain." "Understood, just come back quickly. I don't want to fish you out of the sea. I didn't bring much clothes when I came out this time." Moo waved his hand and said, "Yes, I understand." Gon nodded with a smile after speaking. He ran away directly. Obviously, this is to inform the captain. Soon, all the candidates were rushed into the cabin. Boom! Not long after the candidates entered the cabin, there was a loud thunder outside the ship very suddenly. Call! Then, a gust of wind began to blow. The extremely strong wind directly whipped up waves on the calm sea, and ships sailing safely on the sea. It was also seriously affected by these waves, and on the sea surface, it rose and fell with the seawater. Anyone who has taken an elevator knows. But when the elevator goes up and down too fast, the people inside will have a feeling that they are about to leave the elevator floor. In fact, That is not an illusion, because as long as the elevator is faster, people will leave the elevator floor. At this time, the ups and downs of the ship on the sea are suffering from this kind of encounter, lead to various items and people in the cabin. Because of inertia, it was also randomly thrown into the air. Everyone knows it, but people shake a bottle with quite a few items in it. The items in the bottle will definitely collide with each other and the bottle wall because of the inconsistent movement routes. At this time, the situation in the cabin is no different from this one bottle. Puff, bang, 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 clatter, in the cabin. A large number of items were rolling and colliding up and down, left and right. Candidates who grabbed onto the fixed objects just staggered to and fro. Candidates who did not grasp the fixed object were miserable. At this time, they either hit the left wall all at once, hit the top of their heads, or hit other candidates. The pain from the collision made these candidates gnash their teeth in pain and feel dizzy. However, the most uncomfortable thing is that they have never been on a ship and experienced such a storm. Already starting to vomit. This is not a good phenomenon. Vomit puff as the first test taker started vomiting. The rest of the candidates vomited as if it was a competition. For a while, in this cabin, the stench of various stomach acids and food residues began to spread. People who can ignore the shaking caused by the wind and waves at such times stay in the cabin safely and even walk around. It seemed extraordinarily eye-catching. Gon and Leorio and Karapika and the sailors, too. Of course, Mu is also one of them. It is even said that Mu's situation is better than everyone present. If it weren't for worrying about not being able to find a ship, Mu would have wanted to go to sea or go to recruit Thunder. That's all energy. Sitting on a hammock, Mu looked at Gon, who was constantly busy. Gon, you really love to help people, but in fact, as far as their situation is concerned, it doesn't matter whether you help or not. But this way, they will feel better. Gon replied with a smile while talking. Gon's figure didn't stop running around in the cabin, just to help those uncomfortable candidates pass water and hot towels. This kind of helpful good boy behavior, and what Gon just said, makes Mu hard to identify with. Only, Gon is now his cousin. He decides the head, no matter what, Gon is one of his own. And while Gon can be troublesome, it's actually looking pretty good right now. It can even be said that people like Gon, when they live in peaceful times, are the children of other people's families. Most importantly, in the plot, Gon is hated by some people. That's just because Gon's strength is not enough. If Gon can overwhelm her and save Kate when encountering Neferpitu, then other people's perception of Gon will be different. For example, Jackie, Puff what? The ship suddenly flew high, and everyone, under the sudden jump, was thrown into the air. First hit the head of the cabin. Then it fell under the action of gravity again. Chapter 42, the reason why everyone becomes a hunter seeking flowers. At this time, in the cabin, a large number of candidates rolled like pearls in the shaking pearl milk tea. However, these are not under the attention of Mu. There is only one person he was paying attention to at this time, a candidate who rolled over his head while throwing up. I go. Facing the vomit coming towards her face, Mu's eyes widened. Without thinking too much, he bounced straight out of the hammock. After pushing away the piece of vomit and standing still, he patted his chest with lingering fear. So far, so good. If only this foul-smelling vomit hit my face. Even if I am fine, I will be disgusted enough to vomit. Finding another seat and sitting down again, Mu breathed a sigh of relief. The wind and waves continued to dance wildly, helpless ships. It can only sail tenaciously in this erratic ups and downs. Mu estimated that if it wasn't for the captain of this ship, whose driving skills were superb, I'm afraid I'm already on the way back to Whale Island with Gon. If this is the case, the fun will be great. Time is slowly passing by, and the wind and waves outside seem to be exhausted and are slowly subsiding. Until now, the waves caused by the wind and waves outside can no longer make the candidates in the cabin fly around. The rare pause made those candidates who were about to vomit their stomachs out just now. I felt better and even showed the expression of the rest of my life after a catastrophe on my face. At this time, Most of the candidates had their faces covered with hot towels sent by Gon. He looked uncomfortable, but looked outside with lingering fear, because they are worried that there will be another wave of storms. Many candidates have never left their hands from various objects that can be firmly grasped at this stage. The stiff palms all showed that they no longer wanted to be devastated by the second wave of storm. Emomu doesn't care about this, he just knows. This hurdle is already over. He wasn't worried about failing the test. He just didn't want to stay in this cabin full of disgusting stomach acid and food residues combined with all kinds of stench. In order to avoid inhaling the smell, he had already stuffed tissues up his nose. But that effect is not good. You guys, come to the captain's room. At this moment, the white-bearded captain walked into the cabin with a pipe in his mouth with an expression that was nothing more than that, and shouted at Emomu and the others. As for the Emomu who were called, their condition at this time was the best four among the many candidates. Hearing this, Emomu knew what this was about. Without any hesitation, she just lifted her foot and followed the captain out. "Cousin, wait for me." Followed by Gon, shouted and followed. Then, there were Leorio and Kurapika who didn't know what was going on. The four followed to the captain's room and stood in front of the captain. Except for Emomu who knew the situation, the other three did not speak, quietly waiting for the captain to speak to see what this guy wanted to do. Facing the gaze of the four people, the captain breathed out a mouthful of thick smoke without any time. After the smoke dissipated for a while, he asked, "What's your name?" "Emomu." Emomu was the first to say his name. "Gon." "Leorio." "Kurapika." The three of Gon, who followed closely behind, also spoke their names. In the eyes of Leorio and Kurapika, if it's just the name, it's not a problem. "Why are you taking the hunter test?" The captain exhaled a puff of smoke. The pipe in his left hand signaled lightly, and looked at Emomu seriously with both eyes and asked. Facing the captain's question, Leorio said loudly in displeasure, "You're not an examiner. Why are you pretending to ask these questions? I want to know what's going on with the career that Dad is obsessed with." Gon raised his hand and said first. Emomu answered, "I am here to become stronger." "Hey, you two said it too easily." Leorio looked at Emomu and said, facing such words. Gon smiled and said, "If it's just a reason, it shouldn't matter. When you take the hunter test, the examiner doesn't answer the questions. If you want to quit, just say so." Emomu raised his eyebrows and looked at Leorio and said, What do you mean?" Leorio said blankly. Kurapika also froze, narrowed his eyes, and said, "It means that the captain is the examiner, Leorio. I'm a descendant of the Karuta clan. The reason why I became a hunter is to hunt down the Phantom Troop who killed my people 4 years ago." Kurapika continued, "Do you want to be a bounty hunter? Those are A-level criminals. Even seasoned hunters are unwilling to attack them. It's like sending them to death." The captain picked up a bottle of wine and said after taking a sip, "I'm not afraid of death. I'm just worried that the anger in my heart that wants to bury them will gradually fade away." Kurapika's eyes became terrifying. Emomu seemed to see some life, energy fluctuating in Kurapika. But now it's just as if the aura is rising above him. "Here I am. I took the hunter exam for the money. Money, as long as you have money. You can buy anything. Big house, famous cars, wine." Leorio excitedly explained why he participated in the hunter test, although this is indeed Leorio's real idea. But Emomu knows that Leorio's deep thinking is not like this. Character can't be bought with money, Leorio. Kurapika looked down on this money-oriented behavior. "It's the third time," Leorio said with a stern face, seeing this. Emomu knew that Leorio and Kurapika were still in conflict with the plot. He didn't care about this, but followed him out to the theater with great interest. It's just that looking at the development in front of me, which is the same as the plot. Watching the scene where Gon rushed over to save people regardless of anything. Emomu was speechless for a while. "Kacha, by the way, I took out the mobile phone I bought at Whale Island, took a picture of Gon's glorious moment, and showed it to Mito when I got back." Chapter 43. The shortcut to Port Duray. 4 flowers. Cousin. Don't show the photo to Mito, aunt. She will hate me." Gon chased after Emomu and said eagerly, "Don't worry. As long as you don't be so impulsive in the next test, then this picture will never be seen by Aunt Mito." Mo said with a smile, but Gon wanted to try harder. Mo narrowed his eyes and said, "If you're talking too much, I will send the photo to Aunt Mito right now." "No, don't. I won't say it." Gon hurriedly waved his hands and said, looking at Gon, who was terrified. Mo was very satisfied. Let this kid dare to mess around, so he won't be scared to death. At this time, the four of Mo have passed the test of the first small level. Now heading to the next location of the hunter test. And the situation just now is exactly the situation where Gon jumped into the sea to save people and was photographed by Mo to intimidate Gon. It's a very simple intimidation that is to make Gon restrain his thoughts of dying. Although the effect may not be obvious, Mo decided to save himself some trouble. Although I am not afraid of trouble, but it is quite boring to keep on being troublesome. Time flies, and soon this ship, which has encountered the biggest storm in previous years, just docked like this. Standing on the deck of the ship, Mo and the others discovered that this is an overcrowded port. Before getting off the boat, Mo was overwhelmed by the sight in front of him. In his impression, there is a scene that could be compared with what he was facing. There is only spring travel. In the port, the low air pressure of those candidates made it obvious at a glance that these were not characters that were easy to get along with. Although in Mo's memory, none of them were successful in the end. However, this scene left a deep impression on Mo. Under the watchful eye of the captain, the four got off the boat. Mo, Leorio, and Kurapika got off the ship just to get off the ship. Only Gon, the kid, was kindly reminded by the captain. Coincidentally, this scene was seen by candidates passing by. For this, Mo just smiled and let this kind of thing develop slowly. In his opinion, as long as he can become a hunter, he can learn more profound thoughts and skills. All other things are trivial. As for the plot, he doesn't care at all. No change is the best, and he is not afraid of changes. After getting off the boat, Mo greeted Gon directly and walked towards a big mountain in the distance. For the bus stop not far away, I completely ignored it. Gon didn't have any objection to this, and he also believed what the captain said. "Hey, Gon, aren't you going to take the bus?" Leorio yelled at Gon. Gon is the main thing. Mo is just incidental. Already, it was the three of them who experienced trust rescue together. Mo is not in this list. If it weren't for Mo being Gon's cousin, Leorio and Kurapika would probably be more wary of Mo. I even worry about whether Gon will be used. "No, I'll go with my cousin." Gon shook his head and said, "Leorio, what about Kurapika? Why don't you go and have a look together?" "No, why do you have to go there?" Obviously, the request this time is to let us go to Kent, and we can only go there by taking the bus here. Leorio asked, very puzzled. Gon smiled and said, "I don't know, I just think there is nothing wrong with following my cousin." "Hey, even if he is your cousin, you don't need to believe him like this. Don't you want to be hunter and find your father?" Leorio said with difficulty, "I can't pretend that I didn't hear this. Is Gon trusting me as a cousin? Is it in your way?" Mo stopped and asked Leorio with false eyes, "Since you were his cousin, you can't drag Gon into the water. The Hunter Association doesn't have much time left for us. If we go to that mountain this time, maybe we fail because of the lack of time." Leorio said very seriously. "Leorio, cousin." Gon wanted to explain to Mo, but was interrupted by Mo first. "Well, we're doing it for Gon's good anyway, so I won't hate you. Let me tell you the truth. Those guys, absolutely none of them, were able to make it to the final hunter test location." Mo pointed to the candidates who were scrambling to get on the bus at the bus stop not far away, and said with a sneering expression. Leorio was taken aback and hurriedly asked, "Why do you say that? Do you really think that the buses they got on are sure to go to Kent?" Mo said with a slight smile, "In fact, those buses are all moving away from Kent. In other words, once a candidate sits on it, thinking that he can easily go to Kent City, then this year's hunter test completely missed them." Mo said with a smile while spreading his hands suck. After hearing what Mo said, both Leorio and Kurapika were taken aback. "Ah, so that's how it is. The captain said just now, let me go to the big tree on the mountain." Gon said with a nod of his head. "Sure enough, you can't relax. The hunter test has millions of people signing up every year. How can the test be relaxed? It's a good thing we didn't bother to take the bus. You say, Leorio? Said Kurapika. Nodding, Leorio's forehead was covered with cold sweat, and he said with a dry smile, pulling the corners of his mouth slightly, Yes, yes. Those buses can be seen as fake. How could they be real? I just want Ghana to find another way to get to Kent. Oh yes, let's just believe it. Emomu squinted his eyes, looked at Leorio, and said quietly, Of course it's true, Clam. I've seen through these tricks a long time ago. Leorio laughed a few times, and then said stiffly, seeing Leorio's guilty look with eyes rolling around. Emomu no longer provoked Leorio's embarrassing nerve. Turning around, Emomu continued to walk towards the foot of the mountain. Seeing this, Leorio also breathed a sigh of relief. After that, he hurriedly followed up and never mentioned the embarrassing scene just now. Chapter 44: The Disgusting Person's Choice. Flowers. Frightening multiple choice test. As soon as they saw Emomu and the others coming, they saw an old woman in ethnic clothes rushing out and yelling at them. Slap! Then, while Leorio and the others were in a daze, they saw another group of supplementary exams appearing behind the old woman, applauding the four of them. The sound was so loud, it was like a large-scale performance here. Emomu's eyes are good, and he has already seen the palms of those assistant examiners start to turn red. I'm going to ask the question, and you have 5 seconds to answer. If the answer is wrong, then I will judge you to be disqualified from this year's Hunter test. The old lady said to the four Emomu with no expression on her face. According to what you said, is it possible that the four of us count as together? Leorio was stunned, pointing at himself and the 3 people around him, and asked in surprise. The old woman nodded and admitted, That's right. That's right, they got the wrong answer, and they will also implicate me. Leorio pointed at Kurapika, Emomu, and Gon, and said in surprise, It seems that this is a difficult thing to accept in general. Impossible. Kurapika closed her eyes and said in a disgusted tone. Emomu raised his eyebrows, squinted at Leorio, and said, What gives you such confidence that you think we are holding you back? Now, I suspect that you will become our hind legs, so in order for us to pass the level, you should not answer the questions for a while. What do you mean? Why do you think I can't answer it? Humph, I want to answer it for you. Leorio said angrily, Please, I need to be a hunter. Kurapika opened his eyes, looked at Leorio, and said seriously. Emomu nodded and said, That's right. I also need to become a hunter now to complete my practice. Although not directly pointed out, but between the lines, both Kurapika and Emomu expressed their disapproval of Leorio's ability to answer questions. The attitude and distrust of the two made Leorio grit his molars in displeasure. He pouted, secretly making up his mind. It's decided, I want to rush to answer. Leorio is the kind of person whose thoughts are easy to express, especially in the presence of people who are still familiar. Because Leorio's expression was directly received by Emomu and Kurapika. Emomu and Kurapika looked at each other involuntarily. After that, the heads of the two of them nodded slightly. Then they quietly came to the left and right sides of Leorio. Then what about you? Are you also with them? The old lady didn't ask the question directly, but asked the secret place behind the four of Emomu. No, I'm not with them. If you still can't argue, then let me answer the question first. At this moment, an ordinary-looking examinee came out from the secret place. There was a very proud expression on his face, as if he was proud that he followed Emomu and the others to come here. However, he didn't know that among the four Emomu, except for Leorio, who didn't find him, the other 3 are aware of his existence. It's just that everyone didn't say it. Faced with the appearance of new candidates, Emomu and the others let him start answering the questions first. Then, they heard a hot topic. Even Emomu already knew it would be this kind of topic. However, when he really heard it, still get angry. He even thought of what he could do if something happened to Catherine and his future woman. Strength. Emomu only thought of that. Only with enough strength can he avoid such disgusting things from happening. The examinee passed and left the way the old woman and the others made way for. Leorio, who didn't know why, was very angry about this. He totally disagrees with this inhumane answer. You can only choose from 1 or 2. An ambiguous answer is also regarded as a wrong answer. The old woman continued to speak seriously without giving Moo and the others time to react. You won't come up with such a question. Leorio gritted his teeth and glared at the old woman and asked he no longer wants to be in the limelight. He just wants to let the old lady in front of him know. What is still cruel? Please listen to the question. In the future, your child will be trafficked by human traffickers. If you can save the next one, who will you save? 1 is daughter and 2 is son. The old lady ignored Leorio's question and started asking questions directly. Leorio, who thought he would hear an answer, froze and then became furious. On the other side, Kurapika and Gon were lost in thought again, obviously stumped by this type of question again. Yes, they don't have children now, and it's hard to imagine their life with children in the future. However, judging from a mother and girlfriend's problems encountered by the examinee just now, the issue they're now dealing with is not limited to the issue of sons and daughters. Like Gon, if one day Mito and his mother-in-law, the 2 most important people to him, were arrested. At that time, if he could only save one of them. So what are the options? This situation can also be encountered with Leorio and Kurapika. Stop joking. How could there be such a stupid question? Leorio, unable to vent his anger, suddenly roared at the old woman. The question is a disgusting question, but I have to admit that it is a very real question. Ordinary people are fine, and this kind of thing rarely happens. But for those of us who are going to be hunters, as long as there is such an enemy, this kind of thing will happen. Moo said, very unhappy. Leorio shouted angrily. I don't agree with this kind of test. Now I'm leaving, and I'll use my own way to go to Kent City. After all, Leorio turned around and wanted to leave here. Forget about doing these tests here that make him so angry that he wants to punch someone. However, Leorio wanted to leave, but the old woman would not let him go so easily. Chapter 45, The Dilemma Passed. Flowers asked, it's too late. Those who give up the answer are out now. Now, answer my question within 5 seconds. The old lady looked at Leorio and said seriously, UBD. Leorio's face was throbbing with veins, his eyes glaring at the calm old woman in front of him. No need to guess, Leorio already has the intention of doing something. 5, 4, 3. The old woman began to count down slowly, trying to put more psychological pressure on Moo and the others. Facing the countdown, Moo is not in a hurry, but just thinking about how to become stronger. And Leorio at the side, as expected, started to roll up his sleeves angrily, planning to give the old lady a blow from Pangu. It seems that these 2 boys are completely aware of it. That child is also very good, and he is still thinking seriously. This year's hunter test looks like it will be very lively. Now, no matter what, they can pass. Although the oldest boy didn't understand my question, he would be a good hunter with this kind of emotion. Don't think about randomly answering an answer. That is the best answer. Relatives are not goods, and their value cannot be measured. If you are faced with such a difficult problem, you only want to find the one with the highest value to choose, or something that suits my thoughts. This kind of guy who is not sincere in his feelings will only bring disaster to the world if he really becomes a hunter. This year's hunter test, there are many seated players. See if I don't beat you to the ground. Leorio's anger was no longer suppressed, and he just jumped at the old woman. Moo raised her eyebrows and kicked in the past. Boom, in the next second, Leorio was kicked flying tens of meters away. Scoff Leorio slid his feet on the ground for a certain distance before stopping. After standing still, Leorio looked at Moo angrily and asked, such a stupid question. Do you really want to let her dictate? I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I know that if I let you drop it, our hunter test will really come to an end. Moo glared at Leorio and said, are you an idiot? You can't even see such an obvious answer. Leorio was taken aback and asked with a puzzled expression, what do you mean? It means that we have passed the test, and not answering is the best answer. Kurapika said, I'm sorry, old lady. I was impulsive. If you're angry, I will give you this. You can beat me twice to calm down. Leorio said with a dry smile at this time. He was very embarrassed. A test that was supposed to be doomed to fail. Unexpectedly, they actually passed the level. Young man, don't be so impulsive in doing things in the future. Of course, please maintain this mood well. You can pass. The old woman did not take the stick, but looked at the 4 people in front of her with satisfaction and said, "Gone, gone, we are leaving." Momu shouted to Gon, who was still thinking about the question. Just now the awakened Gon murmured in distress, "Well, it still doesn't work. I can't answer it anyway." Hearing Gon's words, both Leorio and Kurapika couldn't help laughing. Even Momu, who knew this for a long time, laughed along with him at this time. That is, only the Gon at this stage will be like this. Wait for Gon. He really meant when someone important died because of him. Momu can even imagine that Gon will definitely do all kinds of willful things to drive those who value him crazy. Thinking of this, Momu couldn't help sighing. Mito, Gon, it's really hard to keep an eye on him. In his case, only after becoming the strongest in this world. Only then can all kinds of tragedies be avoided. If not, Gon will probably hurt many people in the future. It's time for us to go. Momu walked directly towards the passage that the old woman and the others made. Seeing this, the 3 of Gon hurriedly followed. They already know the correct route. Even from the mouth of the old woman, just now, I learned that it takes only 2 hours to walk to the big tree on the top of the mountain. It doesn't sound like it's too far away. However, Momu, who has watched anime, knows that this is completely ignoring Hiroto. Can you walk to the top of the mountain in 2 hours? There is no such thing as a lie. In the plot, Gon and the others walked for at least 4 hours. It is even said that they need to walk for 5 hours to reach the top of the mountain. Such a long distance, such a long time. If you don't walk faster, you may not be able to reach the top of the mountain late at night. If it wasn't for Gon and the 3 of them, Momu would have flown directly there. When he is running in the air, he could take up to 2 people with him. They are all portable. The 3rd person needs close contact. Good guy, not a woman. Momu doesn't want to bear this at all. So, use it to make yourself unhappy. You might as well walk together, Gon. The problem is over. You don't need to think about it anymore. Walking up the mountain path, Lirio looked at Gon and said worriedly, "However, if such a day really comes, we will also encounter such a choice, right?" Gon asked suspiciously as soon as these words came out. Kurapika and Lirio couldn't help but fell silent. They know that this is a very objective question. It's not that as long as they don't think about it, the problem won't exist. A few of them have embarked on the path of hunter. They don't even need to think about it. They also know that in the days to come, this kind of dilemma will definitely appear in them. When the time comes, what should they do? Don't think about it. All the problems are because you're not strong enough. Working hard to become stronger is what you should do now. If you can't solve the problem, then solve the person who caused the problem. It's a very simple matter. Even if it fell into the river, if you just drain the water, no one will drown. Momu interrupted the meditation of the 3 and said, Chapter 46. The script of the vicious fox family, 4 flowers. After a period of walking, the 4 of Momu finally came to the big tree on the top of the mountain. After walking so far, the sun has completely descended at this time. The 4 of Momu who haven't had dinner yet feel a little hungry. Momu's damage transfer can only allow him to transfer the damage to his stomach. But he doesn't care about his hunger. At this time, under the big tree in front of the 4 of them, there's a wooden house made of logs, which is integrated with the big tree. It was extremely quiet here at night, and I didn't hear any animal calls. Only the sound of some insects sounded around. For some reason, Kurapika and Gon became wary. Not knowing why, Lirio walked towards the wooden house carelessly. Only Momu, who has watched the plot, knows what is going on now. No, this wooden house is a vicious fox family. In order to test the candidates, the whole family put on a play. In this regard, Momu is very curious. Does the drama of the vicious fox family change every year, or does it not change for many years? No way. It seems that the candidates who come here are all newcomers. In order not to be troublesome, this family never thought about changing the script frequently. The plays are all the same, but yes, different candidates are different. Only for insiders like Momu. The test for a while is probably just a formality. In order to pass the level, he will have to let the vicious fox test Gon and the others in a while. Therefore, Momu can't directly break the drama. After all, the hunter test is all about passing the test. What if Gon and the others are judged to be disqualified from the hunter test if they don't take the test? Thinking about something, Mo Moo kept walking. They followed Gon to the door of the wooden house. Quiet, at least for Liurio, but for Mo Moo, Karapika and Gon. Inside the wooden house in front of you, it can be said to be very lively. The voice is not low, and there are quite a few of them. Heartbeats, breathing sounds and smells, etc. These small movements can provide a lot of information to Mo Moo, Karapika, and Gon. Let them have a little understanding of the wooden house. Boom, boom, boom. Liurio, standing at the front, knocked on the door without any hesitation. For a moment, the dull knock on the door slowly passed through the trees in this secluded mountain forest and disappeared into the distance. Boom, 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 a sound that bounced back through the environment, tune rang in the ears of Mo Moo and the others. The sound of the door seemed to come back from the netherworld. Listening to it, Mo Moo's skin was covered with goosebumps. Just because that voice is really too penetrating. Gon, this kind of voice, this kind of environment, if you put it in any supernatural world, it is estimated that it will be a good time for those ghosts to haunt. Well, although it is not a supernatural event now, it is the case of the vicious fox family. Anyway, it was a horror event. Tisk, it's not a mortal incident. Nobody, Liurio muttered happily. Then we're coming in, not waiting for Karapika and Gon, who had discovered that there was someone inside, to stop it. Liurio, whose hands were faster than his mouth, directly opened the wooden door in front of him. Squeak. As the wooden door that had not been lubricated opened, a harsh sound suddenly appeared in the air. It's just that at this time, Liurio and the others have not paid attention to the sound of the wooden door. When the wooden door was opened, the situation in the wooden house was also clearly presented in front of Mo Moo and the others. A tall and fierce fox is holding a woman in national costume with one hand. It might be a very serious and crazy face, but because of the vicious fox's scimitar-like eyes, this makes the vicious fox look very sinister and cunning. In addition, at the feet of the vicious fox, there was a man also wearing national costumes. The man is very stubborn. Even if he is injured all over, he still wants to stop the vicious fox and reaches out his hand to save the woman. The scene in front of me is easily reminiscent of a monster breaking into a commoner's house at night, seriously injuring the hostess here, and grabbing the hostess by the way. Karapika and Gon are very strange. When they stood in front of the gate before, they didn't realize this at all. But now, this kind of scene made the two of them doubt their own ears. Gurgling, the vicious fox, standing in front of Mo Moo and the others suddenly uttered a strange cry at them, as if talking. Seeing this, Karapika, Gon, and Liurio directly entered the fighting stance. Regardless of whether their suspicions are correct, what is in front of them, it is more important to save lives. However, Mo Moo was indifferent to this, and leisurely walked a few steps to the side to give up the space. Everyone in the wooden house noticed this subtle movement except Liurio, including the vicious foxes who were acting. It was precisely because of this that these vicious foxes were surprised, and a strange look flashed in their eyes. Mo Moo doesn't know yet. He is in the heart of the fierce fox. It is already certain that he will be disqualified from the hunter test, because in the fierce fox's family, those who choose to stand by when encountering injustice really do not meet their bottom line. Although, Hunter doesn't have to be a good person, but at the very least, don't be so indifferent. It is precisely because they have such good people who are willing to accept them in Hunter that they can live here quietly. Moreover, from the Hunter Association, he obtained the job of Hunter Assistant Examiner with a good salary. With such a good life, they might like a desperate guy like Mo Moo, but now is not the time to talk about it. The test will continue, and it cannot be delayed because of Mo Moo alone. Thinking of this, the vicious fox gave Mo Moo a vicious look and then rushed towards the gate. Help my wife. The seriously injured man who fell to the ground also glared at Mo Moo and then continued to act and shouted apart from Mo Moo, there are still 3 remaining candidates to take the test, so don't reveal the truth. I'm going to save people. Gon left the sentence and rushed out of the gate. I'm going to see Gon. Karapika yelled soon. Gon and Karapika disappeared into the forest. Chapter 47. The vicious fox completes the level. Flowers asked, "Sir, please calm down." Your injury is very serious now. If you don't deal with it quickly, your life will be in danger. Leorio hurriedly ran to the side of the seriously injured man, and while persuading him, started emergency treatment in numbers. Bored, Mu found a seat at the scene and sat down, dragging his cheeks, watching Leorio busy. Leorio, I didn't expect that you're still a veterinarian. Mu said with emotion. He knew that Leorio was a doctor, but he could heal a beast like a vicious fox. This is something he didn't expect. Although the ferocious fox has turned into a human being, there should still be some differences between them. What did you say? The seriously injured man sat up in surprise, staring at Mu with wide eyes. He knows my identity? Did you know this early in the morning? No wonder. No wonder he was indifferent to our play. After all, we all know that we are acting, so how could there be too much performance? Lie down quickly. My companions have gone out to rescue your wife, and they will definitely rescue your wife. Leorio hurriedly pressed the seriously injured man down and said soothingly, Mu, if you don't help, don't come here to make trouble. Well, I can only treat people, not veterinarians. To this, Mu shrugged and said, no problem, I will keep quiet. After finishing speaking, Mu really didn't say a word, and just watched Leorio busy with his chin. Oops, I didn't bring some medicine with me. At this moment, Leorio suddenly exclaimed, quickly stood up and shouted to Mu, Mu, help me take care of him. I will pick some herbs, and if there is any accident, just call me loudly. I will use the fastest speed came back. After speaking, Leorio ran out of the cabin. At this time, he was rushing towards the way he came, and on that way, he saw the herbs he needed. Sir, I really can't move now. Excuse me, can you help me over there? Thank you. The seriously injured man, lying on the floor, said in a pleading tone, if you really found out my identity, let me see. Mu looked at the seriously injured man in front of him, pondered for a moment, and said, this kind of temptation is completely unnecessary. I know what you are, and I also know what their situation is. Sure enough, since you have already seen our identities, it will be considered that you have passed our test. I still have something to do. This candidate should wait here for a while. The seriously injured man understood that Mu really knew his identity. After leaving a word for Mu, the seriously injured man stood up directly from the ground. Or did he still have that seriously injured posture? Mu nodded casually and gestured towards the door with his chin. Watching the back of the seriously injured man disappearing through the gate, Mu ignored the messy scene around him, sat quietly and waited. After waiting for a while, Leorio returned to the cabin with the vicious fox man who had no injuries. Since you know they are assistant examiners, why didn't you remind us? Leorio walked to Mu and asked. Mu looked up at Leorio strangely and said, if you want to lose the hunter test qualification, you could just tell him directly, there's no need to drag me down on my side. Besides, didn't I give you a hint? Can you blame me if you can't guess it? When did you give the reminder? Leorio asked suspiciously. No. Once I came into the wooden house, I didn't bother with these assistant examiners once. It's so obvious. Don't you have any doubts? Mu said with an unbelievable expression. Could it be that you really think that I don't care? Seeing Mu's expression, Leorio could only smile dryly. Of course not. I just didn't expect that there is still a test here. Leorio said very bluntly. Yes is the best. Mu looked at Leorio and said how could he believe what Leorio said? This guy absolutely didn't react to the matter of the assistant examiner at all. At that meeting, just now, I may not know how to arrange myself in my heart. It's just that Leorio was slapped in the face for some trivial things. Mu also stopped holding on to her. After waiting for a while, I saw Kurapika walking in with the vicious fox woman outside the gate. When Kurapika saw the scene, he also knew that Mu and Leorio had passed the test. Nodding to the two and looking around, Kurapika asked, it's just gone. That's right, but considering that Boygon's ability, this level is not difficult for him. Leorio continued in this regard. Kurapika also thinks so. Mu, who already knew that Gon would pass the test, was not worried. After waiting for a while, as expected, several people waited until Gon came back. Beside him, there are two tall, fierce foxes. Gon smiled and introduced the situation of the two vicious foxes to Mo Mu and the others. He even wants to tell Mo Mu and others how to tell the gender of the vicious fox. However, regarding this matter, Mo Mu and the others were a loss. From their point of view, the vicious fox couple in front of them are exactly the same no matter how they look at it. Where's the difference between male and female? Facing the sight of the vicious fox couple looking over, the three of them, Mo Mu, smiled dryly and nodded in response. However, although they can't tell the difference, they all passed the test of the vicious fox family. Got the qualification to go to the hunter test site. After everyone tidied up, they flew into the sky with the vicious fox family. 4 ferocious foxes, one with one, just took the 4 of them to the next hunter test venue. The next stop, the destination is Kent, the first test venue of the hunter test. It's a bit far from Kent City here, so even if they were flying high in the sky, the group of people didn't arrive in Kent City until morning. Block 10, Number 5, Section 2, Camellia Tree Street. That's where the hunter test comes in. It is also the content on the note in the hands of the vicious fox youth. Chapter 48, Arrival at the venue of the first test, Seeking Flowers. Well, if I remember correctly, it seems to be a barbecue restaurant. It seems that you should be able to eat something, and you should be able to drink cold drinks. Since noon yesterday, Mo Mu hasn't had a normal meal. Lunch and dinner are supported by a little dry food that they carry. To be honest, dry food can fill the stomach. However, Mo Mu's desire for tongue cannot be satisfied. Moreover, it is very necessary to run a marathon for at least 10 hours and have a good meal. Next, I need to run. It stands to reason that I should find a motorcycle and enter together. But now the problem is, Mo Mu really can't think of any store that would allow customers to push their cars into the store. Not to mention taking it to the elevator. You can't even enter the store. However, there is no folding battery car here, and he has no way to get rid of this bug. It's not the ability of the space system. It's just so helpless. Now in front of Mo Mu, there are only 2 choices. One is to find a skateboard or pulley, and the other is to do nothing. Skateboard pulley, Mo Mu thinks it is really unnecessary. Finally, after thinking for so long, Mo Mu found that his final choice was the original 11th route. Shaking his head with a grin, he continued to walk behind the vicious fox youth. Soon, Mo Mu discovered that they had been brought to a huge square by the vicious young fox. Huge high-rise buildings, various shops, and pedestrians make this place look extraordinarily prosperous. At this time, Liurio, Gon, and Karapika were already standing in front of a luxurious high-rise building. The 3 of them expressed their emotions cautiously and talked about their feelings to the tall building. Mo Mu couldn't help laughing. This scene reminded him of the scene in the plot. Since the visual sense is too strong, he is also very happy. Liurio, Gon, and Karapika looked at him for no reason. "It's not over there, it's over here," Mo Mu joked, pointing to the side. Hearing this, Liurio and the others looked at him in disbelief. Just as he was about to refute, he saw the vicious young fox beside him stop them, pointed to the side, and said something like Mo Mu. The 3 of Liurio, Gon, and Karapika were shocked and hurriedly turned their heads to look over. An old barbecue restaurant with only 1 floor appeared in front of their eyes. The 3 of them looked at each other, looked at the tall building next to them, and then at the barbecue shop, but found that there was no way to compare them. Immediately, Liurio, Gon, and Karapika were a little dumbfounded. Katja and Mo Mu put away the camera and said with a smile, "Hey, your expressions are so funny." Liurio, Gon, and Karapika have long been familiar with Mo Mu's photo shoot. During this time, as long as there are some fun and interesting things, Mo Mu will take out the camera to take pictures. The good name is to preserve the beautiful scene. Whether others believe it or not, the 3 of them just believe it. However, Gon still thinks that Mo Mu is planning to take a picture of his mistake and send it back to Mito Ant. Thinking of this, Gon panicked for a while. "Tisk, isn't it your first time to participate in a hunter test? How do you know it's there?" Liurio asked, very unconvinced. Mo Mu squinted her eyes and grinned, casually pointing to the door sign beside the barbecue shop, and said, "You should be able to see the sign on it." Listening to Mo Mu's words, Leorio, Gon, and Kurapika looked intently, but they saw that the words written on the doorplate were exactly their destination this time. This is too small. This barbecue restaurant is so small. Can it really accommodate so many candidates? Leorio said in disbelief. That's right. We're not the only candidates, are we? Gon also said, doubtfully only Kurapika was thinking, and he said, thoughtfully, the Hunter Association won't be so stupid. Since the ground can't hold it, then just transfer the position to the underground. There should be more than enough space there. That's right, the underground space, Gon said in a daze as they talked. They followed the vicious fox young man into the crowded barbecue shop. They still couldn't see where the Hunter test venue looked like. While scanning the surroundings, the group listened to the conversation between the ferocious fox youth and the boss ordering food. The three of them didn't know what it was, but Imon Mu, who knew the plot, was very clear. This is the code. Please come with me. After the code was given, a waitress came out and guided Imon Mu and the others to the private room inside. Soon, several people were taken to an empty private room. Here, on the dining table in the middle of the private room, some food for the candidates to replenish their strength has been placed. Seeing this, the few people who hadn't had breakfast sat down unceremoniously. The ferocious fox youth squinted his eyes and said with a smile, I wish you all the best. If it's yours, next time, I'd like to lead you the way. Oh, what do you mean? Aren't you eating? Gon asked suspiciously. Of course not. This is our destination. Imon Mu reminded Gon helplessly. Then he turned his head to look at the fierce fox youth and said, however, if you can't speak, don't say it. What do you mean if they were them? Would you still be willing to lead them the way next time? Talk like they're doomed. The vicious young fox smiled indifferently. There hasn't been a hunter for 3 years, and it's hard for him to believe that Imon Mu and others will succeed in becoming a hunter. After waving goodbye to the vicious fox youth, the four of Imon Mu felt that the private room was descending rapidly. That be D. It's really rude to say that he is willing to bring us next year. Isn't this cursing that we can't pass the customs this year? Leorio said very angrily. Kurapika lowered his eyes, cut open the steak in front of him like a gentleman, took a piece with a fork, and said, 1 every 3 years. After finishing speaking, he put the beef into his mouth and began to chew. What are you talking about? Leorio asked suspiciously. That's the pass rate for the hunter test. Imon Mu chewed on the steak, shaking the knife in his hand, and said, 1 in 3 years, maybe not even this year. Hunter has great power, but relative is very dangerous. Therefore, the Hunter Association has always held the idea of preferring shortage to excess. Chapter 49a, Few People's Views on Hunter, Seeking Flowers. As soon as Imon Mu's words came out, Leorio broke out in a cold sweat. He's already starting to feel like his chances of becoming a hunter this year are a little off. Since hunter is so dangerous, why are there so many people who are not strong enough to want to be hunter? Gon asked inarticulately while eating the food kacha, and Mu put away the camera and said, Gon, you can't talk when your mouth is full of food. But cousin, you just... Gon looked at Mu anxiously and said, Auntie Mito won't care about me, but she will care about you. Mu grinned and said, Is there any problem? In a word, Gon's whole body sank. He slumped his shoulders and said, No more. Yeah. Mu said, looking at Gon's cheek immediately. Gon hurriedly chewed silently. This scene made Leorio, who wanted to complain about Gon coming to participate in the hunter test without knowing anything, had to put away his words. Seeing this, Kurapika and Leorio couldn't help but looked at each other, feeling sorry for the fact that Gon is being controlled all the time. At the same time, I am very envious. Not for anything else, just because they haven't been taken care of for a long time. Gon, hunter is the most lucrative/noble profession in the world. Leorio and Kurapika called out the hunter profession in their perception almost at the same time. However, judging from the current situation, the two of them have completely different perceptions of hunter. It can even be said that they are two opposite directions. One is money and reality. One is glory and ideal. The 3 different views of the two made the two of them dislike each other even more. Leorio thinks that Kurapika is arrogant and prudish. Karapika thinks Leorio is a Philistin who wants money. So Nyewenbai thinks that the hunter profession is relatively the most free profession, and they are not opposed by them. The two have particularly different views on hunter's license. Of the two of them, one saw hunters' free access and earning power, which Leorio needed in order to become a free doctor. Another person saw hunters' ability to maintain the world. However, there must be a clear statement. In Gon's view, both Leorio and Karapika are right. I even feel that the views of Leorio and Karapika can be seen together. How, Gon? What are you doing, Hunter? Leorio and Karapika chose to pull Gon off when they couldn't settle down. Regarding this, Gon hesitated, wanting to find a statement that was not biased by anyone. Don't listen to what they say. What kind of profession is hunter in this world? You need to confirm it yourself. When Leorio and Karapika stared at each other and Gon was struggling, Mu on the side interjected. All of a sudden, the attention of Karapika and Leorio was attracted. Although it didn't attract people, it was very disappointing. However, they also know that what Mu said is not wrong. Ding! At this moment, the elevator carrying them stopped. Looking up, the number displayed on that floor is exactly 100 floors. Obviously, they stopped directly at the 100th floor underground, just like the plot. However, Mu does not think that this is really 100 floors. If it is really 100 floors, the time cannot be so long. It is very possible that the 100th floor is only displayed on the elevator, but it does not mean that it is on the negative 100th floor. Soon, the elevator doors opened. As the elevator door next to it opened, the four people who were still sitting in the elevator also stood up. Mu wiped the corner of his mouth and took a drink from the table. He directly ignored the heavy pressure coming from outside the elevator. The atmosphere outside is very dignified and depressing. It's like putting people in a microwave to warm them up, which makes people feel uneasy everywhere. However, Mu walked out of the elevator without hesitation. The three of Gon followed closely behind. As soon as they appeared outside the elevator, the four of them saw a group of candidates standing closely together in front of them. Follow the four people to look around. It can also be found that the candidates in front of them really have all kinds of ghosts. Tall, short, fat and thin, white, black, copper and gray are all among the pile of candidates. And the most important thing is that the ferocity and evil spirit of this group of people are particularly ferocious and violent. What attracted the most attention was that the examinees in front of them were sizing up Mu and his group of four. As for what to see, Mu can only think of one thing, that is whether they have the characteristics of being opponents or not. Soon, the examinees confirmed that Mu and his group were not easy to mess with. Among the group of Mu, except for Mu, there is no one worthy of their attention, and they think they will not be their opponents. Candidates who had just raised this view turned their attention to Mu, who brought them a lot of sense of crisis. In fact, it is not surprising that these candidates have such thoughts. The combination of Mu and the others is really weird. A little kid, a person who should be a girl but does men's clothing, a middle-aged man who looks old at first sight. These are not taken care of by those candidates. What they care about is that Mu has the same weird aura from Hisoka from time to time. How to let people relax their vigilance. In this regard, Mu did not care much. This is the number plate for you guys. Please don't keep it on your body so you don't lose it. When the four of Mu walked out of the elevator, a bean-faced man who had been standing aside for a long time stepped forward and handed out the number plate while introducing the situation. Number plate. Mu took the number 406. Of course, this is the reason why Mu participated at the end. Mu, who got the number plate here, put on his body casually. His eyes were involuntarily fascinated. Gotcha in the next second, Mu took out his camera and took a picture of Gon and the background of the examinees beside him. Gon was used to this, ignoring Mu completely. Gon was busy pinning the number plate to himself. Chapter 50 Tampa's Introduction, Seeking Flowers. What's the matter? Let's go. Mu put away the camera and calmly urged Karapika, Gon, and Leorio to move forward. Hey, Mu, why do you take pictures of everything? Is it necessary? Liurio asked Emomu in a low voice. Emomu nodded with a smile and said, "It's not necessary for me, but for some people, it is very necessary." As soon as these words came out, Liurio had no choice but to express his sympathy for Gon's sadness. "Gon, you should take it easy when you do things in the future," Liurio suggested to Gon at Liurio's words. Karapika couldn't help but nodded in agreement. Gon smiled helplessly at this. "By the way, Emomu, your number plate is 406. That is to say, there are 406 candidates here." Liurio looked around and said, "That's right, 406 people, just including you. You are the last candidates to arrive. Luck is really good, just before the time for the final explanation." As soon as Liurio's voice fell, a voice from the side answered and agreed with his guess. Emomu and the others looked for their reputation. "But I saw a short, middle-aged fat man sitting on a pipe at the side of the tunnel with a smile, greeting Emomu and the others. This man, Emomu, is very impressed with him. Tampa, also known as Tampa God. In the previous life, this was a god-man who was advocated by the majority of netizens. It is even said that in the previous life, some people thought that this guy was Dong Freaks who wrote Journey to the New World. Unbelievable. For this kind of words, Emomu has never met himself before, and Emomu is still skeptical. Now, that's bullshit. "Yo, hello, my name is Tampa." As he said that, Tampa jumped off the pipeline and walked to the side of Emomu and the others. While smiling, he reached out to shake hands with Emomu and the others. But in the face of this strange enthusiasm of strangers, both Karapika and Liurio warily chose to ignore. And Emomu, looking at Tampa's palm, guessing whether Tampa's palm will be smeared with some weird poison or something. Of course, it's just curiosity. Poison is also harm. For Emomu, it has no effect at all. Trying to prevent him from completing this level of the hunter test is undoubtedly wishful thinking. Gon looked at Tampa curiously and greeted him with a nod. But there was no handshake with Tampa. Seeing this, Tampa was not annoyed. In the previous hunter tests, there were too many things where his enthusiasm was ignored. After all, he has encountered countless candidates in so many hunter tests, and there are not a few people like Emomu and Liurio. Faced with this kind of thing, he knew how to deal with it. He just needs to continue looking for suitable topics. For example, you are all newcomers. No, all of a sudden, even Karapika and Liurio, who had just ignored Tampa, were attracted attention. Can it be seen this way? Gon asked, very puzzled. Of course, after all, I have participated in the hunter test 35 times, and I know the situation of the regular candidates for the hunter test very well. Tampa smiled very proudly. Gon and the others looked at Tampa in surprise. 35 times. The acting is really natural. Emomu rubbed his chin while watching Tampa's performance. He picked up his camera and took a few photos. Here Karapika and Liurio muttered with shame on their faces. Is this something to show off? Also, Emomu, why did you even take pictures of him? Liurio turned to look at Emomu and asked, "It's okay, just learn this kind of confident face." Emomu looked at the photo and said casually, "You have to learn this kind of thing?" Emomu's words made Karapika and Liurio look at each other and complain. The murmurs of the three made Gon smile dryly at Tampa. As for this, even if Tampa was annoyed, he could only keep a smile on Gon, expressing that it was fine. For the plan in his heart, he had to endure it. "You bastards be proud, it's now. I'll ask you to squat and not get up later." Tampa used the famous Forrest Gump technique on himself, and immediately his mood improved a lot. Even almost laughed. That means you know all the candidates here. Seeing that Tampa wasn't angry, Gon also asked his own curious question. "Of course, how about this? Let me introduce to you some of the people worthy of attention." Tampa said very proudly while talking. Tampa guided the eyes of Emomu and the others, and the group looked in the direction of the candidates. No, 103, Bach Pong, is a snake charmer with a lot of snakes on his body. If there is nothing wrong, don't approach him in the end. Tampa pointed to a middle-aged man in tight clothes and said, "Number 76, Kingly, is a martial artist with superb martial arts skills, and his strength should not be underestimated. Number 225, Doton, a boxer with amazing strength. Numbers 197, 198, and 199, they are the three Murray brothers. When you encounter them, it's best to hunt them down because they seem to know how to attack together. Number 384, Greta. This is a powerful hunter. Pay attention to the weapon in his hand. It is used for blowing arrows. What? Just when Tampa wanted to continue to introduce candidates' information in order to gain the trust of Mu, a loud scream suddenly sounded from the group of candidates in the distance. This made Tampa's body tense involuntarily. A group of 5 people looked for the source of the sound and turned their eyes. But I saw a red-haired man dressed as a clown, smiling and playing the cards in his hand, and said something incredible. At this time, the screaming examinee was standing in front of him. However, the hands had been severed and scattered on the ground like petals. For a while, the smell of blood became stronger. Oh, be careful. If you hit someone, remember to apologize. Hisoka seemed to be serious about teaching some polite questions to the candidate with the broken arm. The candidates were frightened and retreated one after another. Chapter 51 can't win, but can kill, seeking flowers. But the examinee with the broken arm was twitching from the pain at this moment, unable to answer Hisoka's words at all. Who is this person? Don't you care about being so unscrupulous? Leorio asked in surprise, pointing at Hisoka. His name is Hisoka. He is 44 this year, and he was a popular candidate for Hunter last year. It's just that because he didn't like the examiner in the end, he lost the election after beating the examiner half to death. For the trust of Mu and the others, Tampa gritted his teeth and whispered, no matter how scared he was. The sound is really small, so small that only Mu can hear it. This kind of person can also participate in the Hunter test. Leorio said that this is ridiculous. This is inevitable. The Hunter test will change the examiner every year. As long as the examiner agrees, even the bad people can participate in the test. Tampa continued, for example, I am one of them. While Tampa was introducing various information, and Gon and the others were introducing Hisoka's situation, Mu didn't listen because he knew what Tampa said. Therefore, Mu is currently observing Hisoka and Ermi, who goes by the pseudonym Gitaracker. His gaze was bright and above board, and he stared straight at the two of them because Mu doesn't think he can make the line of sight very secret. He knows that a layman like himself is in the eyes of Hisoka and others with amazing fighting awareness. Whether it is looking directly or peeking, it is almost the same as a reporter holding a camera in front of them. In this case, Mu was spotted right away. He didn't look back and even raised his eyebrows at Hisoka and Ermi. The action was very provocative, with the intention of attracting Hisoka and Ermi to do something to themselves. Facing Mu's situation, Ermi narrowed her eyes slightly, then turned her head to avoid Mu's sight. Obviously, he is not going to pay attention to Mu, another lunatic like Hisoka. Compared with the ignorance of fans, Hisoka is much more active. Seeing Mu's provocative raised eyebrows, he was very motivated. Squinting his eyes, his right hand shook without warning. Whoosh, a card wrapped with a little thought energy was quickly cut towards Mu. The speed was so fast that Mu didn't react at all. Yes, Mu's attack power is very strong, and his defense power is also off the charts. Even the linear speed is extremely fast. However, his practice time was too short after all. Relatively little practice has been done on neural responses. Therefore, Mu has great shortcomings in moving around. It is even said that his strength in this aspect is not much different from what Leorio thought. If you want to become stronger, you need a lot of practice. Of course, if you can't respond, then you don't respond. He is not afraid of these attacks. Snap Mu paused, looked at the cards that fell from his left shoulder, and reached out to grab them. The attack was on the left shoulder. Obviously, Hisoka did not intend to directly kill Mu, the person he was interested in. Looking at the cards in his hand, Mu couldn't help curling his lips. He expressed his displeasure at the fact that Hisoka had launched an attack, but he hadn't reacted. No, the next task of my practice is better to focus on the responsiveness first. Looking away, Emomu looked up at Hisoka with glowing eyes. He curled his lips in boredom, and then threw out the cards in his hand. The card spun in the air and flew for 1 meter, and then the balance was broken, and it fell to the ground in a crooked manner. Knowing that he can't keep up with Hisoka's rhythm, even if he fights, he can only fight with a wide range of attacks without distinction. Emomu is not interested in Hisoka anymore. The energy harvested is not directly proportional to the energy expended. It is too laborious. Whoosh-snap, another card was thrown at Emomu. Feeling this power, Emomu sent it back directly, so as not to occupy his own storage space with less than 200 times. Boom, the energy sent back directly tore the cards that had lost their energy into pieces. Seeing this, Hisoka was a little puzzled and looked at Emomu with more interest. I want to continue to try and test out Emomu's ability. Bang, bang, bang for a moment. Emomu seemed to be setting off firecrackers, and there were a lot of explosions. Although it is very subtle, it is very dense. In this kind of situation, after maintaining for more than 10 seconds, it stopped immediately. Don't get me wrong, it's not that Hisoka isn't interested, and it's not that Emomu started attacking Hisoka to blow up the tunnel. It's because Hisoka, if he doesn't stop, then the card he brought out this time will really be used up for unnecessary trouble. Hisoka had no choice but to hold back, but the fire in his eyes did not decrease by half. Look, it won't lose a piece of meat anyway. Emomu didn't care at all about being targeted by Hisoka. After all, he did it himself. So, it's better to stay away from Hisoka as much as possible. Tampa continued talking. That's right, he is stronger than many hunters. You have no chance of winning against him. Gone, you heard me clearly. After meeting him, you can run if you can, and call me if you can't, understand? Emomu turned around and interjected, what? Leorio said in surprise. Can you beat him? No, I can't do it for now. Emomu shook his head and said, then you. But I can kill him. Emomu interrupted Leorio's inquiry and continued, Clam. You can't beat Hisoka, but you can kill Hisoka? What is this with? The few people who were still paying attention to Hisoka's threat to themselves now feel that Emomu's situation may be more serious. They've all started to make up their minds. This is a disease that needs to be cured. Faced with the expressions of several people, Emomu didn't explain too much. He also won't talk about the conditions under which he can kill Hisoka. It was the fact that it would kill everyone else present but himself. Everyone turned their attention back to Hisoka. In their view, all in all, just stay away from Hisoka. However, they also know that if it is really unavoidable, it is their best choice to stand up and resist. Chapter 52. The test begins. 4 flowers. It is impossible not to resist. After all, the 4 people present have their own principles and bottom lines. A person whose dreams are definitely not weaker than others. At any time, it is impossible to be directly intimidated by people. After all, that is the greatest insult to relatives and friends who have passed away. By the way, after talking so much, you should all be thirsty. I have a drink here. Do you want a drink? That's what he said, but Tampa didn't mean to wait for Emomu to choose. He directly handed the drink in his hand to the 4 of Emomu. Facing the drink handed to them, Emomu and the others instinctively picked it up. After Emomu got the drink, he suddenly realized that he had accepted Tampa's drink. He froze for a moment, then shook his head with a broken smile. Mr. Tampa, your drink seems to have expired. Just as Emomu was feeling emotional, Gon at the side was already spitting out his drink. Their hands were really fast, and they just took the drink, opened it, and drank it. And the fastest drinker is Gon. It's just that Gon's sense of taste is very weird, and he can taste a little bit of strangeness. No, Tampa is obviously a colorless and tasteless drug, but Gon can still taste something wrong right away. It is simply the tongue of God. In other words, with this kind of ability, it would be too wasteful to be a dad hunter instead of being a gourmet hunter. Facing Gon's questioning, as well as Leorio's and Kurapika's questioning, Tampa rubbed the back of his head with a dry smile and backed away. That guy must have some conspiracy. Leorio guessed at Tampa's back. Tampa, the rookie killer, is a guy who destroys rookies for the first time to participate in the hunter test and beats rookies physically and mentally. Emomu said with a nod, this BD is too bad. Leorio said angrily. That guy was planning to attack us, just now. Damn, he almost succeeded. At this point, if it is not still in the time of the hunter test, it is estimated that Leorio is already beating up Tampa violently, so it is bad luck. Of course, that Tampa, you just need to pay attention to a little bit. The people I'm talking about next, you have to keep in mind. M.O. Mu said with some seriousness, seeing M.O. Mu's expression. The three of Gon looked at each other, and then nodded seriously to M.O. Mu. Among those people just now, avoid Hisoka as much as you can. Besides, there are a few other people that you need to pay attention to. M.O. Mu introduced in a low voice, there's a guy with nails all over his head over there. His situation is the same as Hisoka's. He is someone you can't deal with. You must avoid him when you meet him. Hearing this, Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika couldn't help but want to turn around to have a look. Don't look. However, before the neck even started to turn, M.O. Mu called out coldly. This situation made the necks of Leorio and the others stiff. Number 301, Gitaracker, remember this number. Number 294, Hanzo, this is a ninja with superb fighting skills. If you encounter it, you must avoid it, especially you. Gon. I will. Gon paused, then replied, looking at Gon's expression. M.O. Mu also knew that this kid probably didn't care about his words. But it doesn't matter, he will obey. Number 246, Peng Si, is a bee controller. This kind of poisonous bee is very poisonous. If you're not sure, please stay away. This time M.O. Mu did not hide anything and told Gon and others a lot of information about the candidates present, which made Leorio horrified. It is also the sheer size of the strong that makes Kurapika amaze the world. However, Gon, who M.O. Mu wanted to warn the most, now his eyes became brighter and brighter. I'm afraid I thought of it, and I feel excited to be able to compete with so many capable people. Maid, it was hard to make people give up on the hunter test this time. Now after listening to your introduction, I don't know if I can survive. Leorio said very painfully, however. Even with that said, Leorio has no intention of quitting. Obviously, he also had reasons for having to take part in the hunter test. Leorio, please pay attention to the polite words. Kurapika glared at Leorio, pointed to Gon's direction with his eyes, and said very dissatisfied looking at Gon. Leorio was also taken aback for a moment, then scratched the back of his head with regret and said, Sorry, I was too excited just now. Ring, 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 ring. At this moment, a different kind of bell suddenly rang in the tunnel. It's really noisy. Leorio covered his ears and said unhappily. The other three ignored Leorio and followed the direction of the sound. But I saw a man who seemed to be missing a mouth posing there. In his hand, he was holding a somewhat strange alarm clock, standing on the huge pipe beside the tunnel. The alarm clock rang for a while, and after everyone's attention was turned, he turned off the alarm clock in his hand. The bell just now means that the registration time has ended. The mouthless examiner looked at the candidates and said,
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.